Joey.
Joey.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Today is Monday, March 28th, and if you would all rise for the invocation.
Invocation. Lord God, we come before you, acknowledging your existence and presence in this room. We thank you for the many blessings you've given each of us in our community. We ask that you would give each of us an extra measure of discernment, wisdom, and understanding when dealing with government and the issues of requiring that. As always, we pray in the way we were each taught. Amen.
Amen. If you follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone and good evening. We have a lot to cover tonight, so we'll try to drive through this pretty quickly here. But you all had a chance, if not, to see and sign the warrant downstairs. We appreciate that. We have some minutes that we need to approve. We had an executive session, a regular session meeting minutes from March 14th, if someone want to make a motion to approve those.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the minutes from the executive session for March 14, 2016, as printed.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
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 Aye, all right. Okay, I'm just going to go a little bit out of order here to...
We have another set, right? That was just the executive session.
Oh, sorry. The regular session meetings. Sorry. I need a motion to approve the regular session minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
I have a correction.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
Page 3, under new business. It stated, Mr. Fowler stated he talked with residents and went to One Industrial Way today and talked with both. I did not talk with any residents. I did go down. What happened, I went down Hickory Lane to do some homework and see if I heard any noise. So, but I didn't talk with any residents down on Hickory Lane.
So just strike Mr. Fowler stated he talked with residents and
Yep.
went to One Industrial Park. Okay.
And,
Can I get a motion to amend that, please?
so moved.
Second.
All right. Let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And let's vote on the actual meeting minutes as well. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, okay. All right, so I think next I'm just going to quickly take our proclamation for Donate Life Month. I have the Newberries here if you want to please come on up. We'd love to hear from you if you wouldn't mind. All right, so let me just preface this by saying that my daughter came up to me and asked me if we could consider a proclamation for the town of Georgetown for Donate Life Month on in memory of what you have done here with your family. So maybe you can first state your names for the record and address for the record.
Okay. I'm Samantha Newberry.
Okay.
I'm Kelly Newberry, 24 Elm Street,
All right.
Georgetown.
And so Samantha, you are a junior up at the high school here, right?
Yep.
Just making sure. And you're a senior at the high school, is that
Yes,
right?
I am. Stayed back.
All right. Well, one, thank you for contacting through my daughter, and if you could share your personal story and why you're here tonight, that would be. I think everyone in the room would love to hear this story.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you. Honestly, this has become a passion of mine. So it all started in 2006 when my father was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease. And so at the time, it hadn't really been a problem until January of 2015, when his doctors told him that he needed a new kidney. And so dialysis is a system that prolongs the time that he has to find a kidney. And so fortunately, my mother was tested, and she defied the odds, which are 1 in 100,000, and she was proven a match. So he received his kidney, and they're both doing really well. And from their experience, I've become compelled to help others with similar circumstances.
Wow. I'm not sure I'd do the same for my wife. I know she's listening out there. Of course I would, honey. But Kelly, so everyone's happy, healthy, everything went through great, I
Yeah.
understand, right?
Yeah, my husband Steve's doing amazing. Like Sam said, the odds of me being the match were 1 in 100,000. And we are truly living a brand new life.
Wow. Well, thank you for bringing the awareness out, because I know I put organ donor on my license. I don't know really what that means,
Yeah.
whether they can ask me if I'm alive or if I'm not. But that's just very brave for you to do that, and
you.
we're so glad that you and your family are doing so well on that. You guys have any questions, comments? Would you like to? Oh, all right. Well then, Dave, can I ask you to read the proclamation?
Sure.
All right.
Proclamation Donate Life Month, whereas there are more than 121,000 Americans, with more than 5,000 in New England and more than 3,000 in Massachusetts who are currently waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. And whereas there are over 1 million life-enhancing tissue transplants each year that are made possible by the generous donation of corneas, bone, skin, or other tissue. And whereas we can all help to save someone's life and benefit up to 50 recipients by signing up to become an organ and tissue donor by enrolling in the Massachusetts Donor Registry when we apply for or renew our driver's license, or by registering online at www.donatelifenewengland.org. And whereas Massachusetts is home to the pioneering efforts of many of the world's first organ transplant surgeons, it is fitting that Massachusetts continue its unique leadership role and join in the national goal of signing up 50% of our driving population to become donors, and it is dedicated to making it fast and easy to sign up to save a life through our registry of motor vehicles. And whereas this observance pays tribute to organ and tissue donors and their families whose decision to donate life enables others to receive life-saving organs and tissues for transplant. And whereas we urge all citizens of Georgetown to take cognizance of this event, and participate fittingly in its observance. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen, proclaim April 26th as Donate Life Month, and witness thereof our hands seal of Georgetown.
All right, fantastic. So the action that you want us all to take, if for all the public out there, is go to www.donatelifenewengland.org and or register online at the DMV, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that I think this is a great opportunity to share the awareness of it in your story.
So, Mr.
All
Chairman,
right.
for the record, I make the motion that we accept and sign the proclamation Donate Life Month for here in Georgetown.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right. It is now.
Abstain.
I'm sorry. You're gonna abstain. Okay. Well, congratulations. Is now Donate Life Month. All right.
Thank
Let me
you.
sign this, and I'll be happy to give this to
All
you
right,
guys.
thank
Okay.
you.
If you guys would sign that. Great.
There you go.
All right. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Nice to see you
Nice
guys.
to see you.
You guys have a nice evening,
All right,
okay?
thank you.
Nice guys. Okay, let's move on. So we have a correspondence here from the Rossio family on the hearings that we had on the dog complaints. Would you guys like to come up if you have some more? I know that you've sent some correspondence in. Would love to hear what do you think is going on and what you're seeing and how we might be able to help you further.
Well, we're back here tonight, Phil, just to try to get some answers to the questions that we put forth at the last meeting that we were told that the board was gonna look into, town council, and get some answers for us.
Okay.
And then my wife wrote a couple of letters this week in reference to the situation from that point forward, but our main purpose was to try to get the initial hearing and the questions answered. We're still waiting for a resolution on those things.
So, Mike, since the hearing closed, what has actually transpired, and what's, I guess, left to do that you believe that's left to do from all the hearings that we've had?
We sent a notice to the dog owners that notifying them of the board's activity, which was to declare it a dangerous dog. And because, and the board would not take any other action as long as the dog is out of our jurisdiction.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions.
You sure?
So can we notify the new owner? Is it that, I mean, we allowed to do that, to let that new owner know that this dog is a dangerous dog?
I don't know.
Okay.
So
So you don't know legally if there's anything that would prevent us from doing that, but assuming there wasn't anything
nothing that would
legally.
prevent it, but legal counsel didn't believe it's within the purview of the board. You're just asked to, once you declared the dog dangerous, that's the extent of your responsibilities.
Okay. Because I know that legally we couldn't ban the dog from town. It's right in the regs. We couldn't say that the dog's no longer allowed in town.
That's right.
I think that the shelter or rescue where the dog is, or whoever, there should just be a record that follows the dog. So that people are aware that this dog has really violated what I call a law of domestication. I mean, he crushed another dog's leg and he pushed a human being over, attacked her and then crushed another dog's leg. That's a dangerous dog, and once that dog can never be trusted again from doing that. And we should at least let the rescue where that dog is, let it be known that the Board of Selectmen found that dog to be a dangerous dog.
Yeah, Mike, maybe we don't have a legal obligation to do that. I think from a moral obligation, I think unless I'm missing anything, and I don't know what that would be. But if legally we don't have any reason why not to send that letter, I'd like to draft a letter to the new owners. We got to figure out who the owners are as well, right? Do we know where the dog went exactly and how to contact the owners?
I don't.
Okay.
Chief
Well, that's
Cudmore
it.
does.
Yeah, they do, and
Yes, he does.
and it's like Big
Hair Animal Rescue in Stowe,
in
Mass.
Stowe, Mass. So it's easy enough to find their address.
Okay. All right. Can that be accomplished, Mike?
If that's what the selectmen want to
Okay.
happen, yes.
All right, let's do that. What other questions were you looking to get answered? I want to make sure
Well,
that
the ones that we put forth at the last hearing, which was the restrictions on the remaining aggressive dogs. Any we're concerned about this dog coming back and what may happen when this dog comes back, and other there's no doubt that in our minds anyway that these people will probably try to adopt another dog, and we're just looking for some type of protection. I mean, the fencing that they put up, they took down after the last meeting and moved around. So, I mean, there's still aggressive dogs there. I mean, the vicious one's gone, but the aggressive ones are still there. It was more than one dog, so they were all aggressive. And so we're looking to see what type of, I mean, we're still having issues. I mean, people still have to cross the street to walk down North Street. That hasn't gone away because this one dog's gone. The dog still charged the fencing. So, we're just looking to the questions that we put forth that we were told the last time that they needed to be asked legally, and so that's why we came back tonight expecting answers to those questions.
Well, specific to that dog, because I chaired that meeting, but specific to that particular dog, I don't think we can address the other concerns. I think what you're going to
Well,
have to do.
it was clearly part of the hearing, Dave, that the other dogs were as well aggressive. Clearly part of the initial hearing that you weren't part of.
Right. Well, I mean, I've read everything, and I
Well, then did you see them there where they're
understand,
clearly?
but again, I think the
Right.
complaint was against that particular dog.
Well, that dog attacked us,
Right.
but
No, I
they
see.
all were
Right.
all aggressive.
Right.
And that complaint included all the dogs, not just
Have
one.
you talked to the chief about what's going on after we declared that dog? In other words, you're saying that they've moved fencing. You're still-
Right after the day after the meeting, they took the fencing down that was giving us somewhat protection, and they moved it to another area.
Right.
Yeah,
So I want to
that
be.
was before the dog was removed.
Yes, so I want to be fair to you guys. When we had those hearings, I was not considering any other dog except for this particular dog, Diesel. And maybe I should have been, but that's what the complaint was for, was that dog. If you want to have a further discussion on that, we can have a public, if you wanna have another public hearing.
Well, like I said, if you go back through the last hearing, Phil, it was clearly stated that the other dogs were aggressive as well. The Diesel was the dog that attacked us, but like I said, in the initial hearing, it was clearly stated that they were all aggressive by other people other than just us.
Yeah.
Other neighbors have
And
had
they-
experiences with the other dogs as well that they testified to.
I'm sure it was. If we're gonna have to start talking about the other dogs now, we're
It
gonna.
always was part. It always
Well,
was part of it from our perspective. It's
I
a pack
don't-
of dogs that were aggressive.
Well, I think myself, and maybe I took it the wrong way, but the intent of my conversation in those hearings was to talk about just Diesel. And I thought once Diesel was gone, that was taking care of the issue. And if it's
Fortunately,
not,
it didn't.
and if it's not, then let's continue that. But we need to have a public hearing to go through the evidence again and all that fun stuff. It needs to be fair to the dog owners as well to be here to have a right to speak. Your neighbors
They
as
should have
well.
been here this evening, I would have thought. This was
Well,
still
this
part
isn't a
of-
public hearing to talk about the other dogs. This is to follow up on what we thought was just the Diesel problem.
Honestly,
and it's not. Don't take offense.
Yeah,
That
well, I'm
was-
just saying,
that was-
honestly, the process that we went through the first time was really, needs to be, I think, streamlined or something, because I wouldn't, never want to go through another dog hearing. That was really, in our opinion, was rather ridiculous, the way it was all handled by this board.
Well, I'm sorry you guys feel that way. 'cause
Yeah,
I thought
absolutely.
it was rather well streamlined, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. I
not
think
at
we
all.
handled it the way that it should have been, and when the outcome was that
It was
the
put off
dogs.
for 6 weeks.
Okay, all right.
You know what I mean? It was just drawn on way too long. It should have been resolved the first time. We should have never had to come back multiple times. This was a slam dunk, Phil. Was obviously a dangerous dog.
Listen. I understand if you weren't happy with the process.
No, we were not
you know.
at all. And so therefore, we don't want to go through that again. It was just a waste of our time, really.
Well, is there?
You got rid of a dog.
Because of our actions, not because of anything you
But we're still here
did.
because if they brought
That
the
dog's
dog
gone
back
because of what we
tomorrow,
did.
we still have the same issues.
I
We still,
respectfully, I disagree with that, but
Yeah,
I
you can
think that-
disagree all you want, but that's what happened.
If I may speak?
Sure, go ahead, Gary.
Well, the letter that I saw from Mike, and I did deliver you a copy.
Absolutely, yes.
Did state that if the dog was to come back to the Settlemeyers, that the Board of Selectmen would impose restrictions. That
Right.
was in the letter.
So what happens if they
And-
come back? Oh, excuse me.
No,
I'm sorry.
I've got two things I'd like to add to part of what we've talked about, and I feel that that letter should also be, even though I have given them a copy, I feel that should be delivered from the board, that letter, not just because I saw Jim while on my way to the post office. But, now I lost my second train of thought of what I was gonna state. I'd have to look over my notes. I had two things I wanted to state. I know what the other one was. I don't know if legally we can do this, but it was talked about that night that, if we could perhaps not allow that dog to be licensed again in town. Now, I know that we could not demand that dog be put out of town, is what we were told. We could not demand that the dog be put out of town, but I don't know that if that applies the other way. I would think that if we can say that dog is not licensed again in Georgetown, now that it is gone, that we should give that a copy also of that letter to the town clerk if that is legal. And I think that we should find that out if we can legally do that.
I don't think we can, because we can't ban a dog from town.
You can't.
It says right in the
You
reg.
can't.
By not granting a license, we're probably banning the dog from
You
town.
can't say this dog's gotta be dislocated from town, but can you say a dog cannot be licensed in town?
I don't think you can.
I don't think we got an answer to that, and I'd like to see that.
Licensing is only proof of vaccination. Why would you want an unvaccinated dog in town?
Right.
And only the court could order the removal of a dog.
Right, that was my understanding.
Okay.
So, but I do have a couple of quick questions. I mean, I've been on the board, well, Gary and I have been here, what, 7 years? This is the first time this has ever come up. This is the first time we've ever had I don't want to say go through it, but handle the situation. So, I'm a little concerned that you feel like we didn't do anything. I mean, we declared the dog dangerous based on what we had in front of us. We have to hear all sides of the story. So I think that's a little bit disheartening that you feel like we didn't do anything. I think we did what we were supposed to do.
didn't, when
guess
we
we can
left
respect
the
and
last
disagree.
meeting, when we were here the last meeting, we were gonna come back because you were gonna look into the restrictions on the dog if it came back.
Yep.
So that's what we're here to find out.
Yeah, Mike's saying there's not much we can do, right? I mean,
So
talk
there-
to-
So
So
they can bring
we're
this
back
dog to
to-
town on a Friday afternoon when town hall's closed and Friday, Saturday, and then leave Sunday, and we have no protection against that?
I think again, why are we dealing with the ifs, right? Where are we right now? The dog's
Because our
not.
dog almost got killed,
Because,
that's why.
and these people were very deceitful through this whole hearing, so
We have no faith
personally,
that they'll
we
do the
do
right
not
thing. No
trust
faith
that the dog
whatsoever.
is going.
Well, I think if
Good.
you see that dog in town, you have to pick up the phone and call the police department right away. I mean, and protect yourself. I'm concerned
That's what
also.
we've tried to do, but
Right.
it just,
I mean, I'm concerned that there's still an issue there.
there is still an issue there. It's never gone away.
I mean, again, how bad is the issue? Are those
It's not as
dogs-
bad as it used to be, but it still exists.
Right.
Well, may I speak?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. One of the reasons that I think it's important to have a letter go to the rescue and have that dangerous dog declaration be part of that dog's record is that anybody that would go to rescue the dog would have to be made aware of it.
Right.
Now, that's not, in a perfect world, that's how it works. I don't know if there's any way that we can guarantee that the dog doesn't
Right.
come into the town. And it would be one of those that if it is in the town, then we should be made aware right away.
Those are some of the restrictions that we thought might happen, but
What-
you know, that's why we're here.
We're constrained by the law, by what we can do as a board.
So then why at the last meeting when we put forth those questions were we told that we'll get a legal opinion and let you know? Why was that said to us? And here we are 2 weeks later with no more answers than we had 2 weeks ago.
No, we just reaffirmed what we thought. That's what
I
happened.
mean, I'll tell you, I'll be very public with this. Having looked over everything that took place, personally, after the first meeting, after all the testimony was done, what I've learned is that I should have probably asked for a 5-minute recess, just to think about it, and then come back and make a motion. Okay? For that, you know, hindsight's 20/20.
You understand
know
that.
what I mean? But I mean, what we can do is try to get that dog a declaration that follows the dog around, or at least it should. In a perfect world.
Look, if you don't think we had any influence in helping remove Diesel, that's your opinion. I think we had a lot of influence on that. If
What
we're gonna
influence
start-
did you have, Phil?
Well,
What did you do?
we were threatening to take the legal action by declaring the dog dangerous.
Oh, I've been unaware of that to this point.
Well, I don't know, we've had those
You voted the dog
discussions.
dangerous after it was removed from the town. It was a.
No.
Was that, oh yeah, the dog was gone before that meeting,
That's
gentlemen.
a circumstance, just because
It
we
was
had the
gone
meeting
before the
that night.
Like I said, it was done by
Okay.
pressure that we put on, not by pressure that the board put on.
All right, I'm gonna end this discussion. If you wanna come back, we'll be happy to
No,
hear
we
it
don't have
in a
anyone
public
to come
hearing.
back and go
There's-
through that
then-
process
then we
all over
can't-
again.
then
Like I
we-
said,
there's-
you need
there's
to
nothing-
school yourself on the process first,
I
and
know-
then maybe.
I followed the process, and just because it didn't work to your time frame, I apologize for that. But that's it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you, but we really can't.
All right, let's move on. Okay, next, we got a letter for us to ask for support for a 40B application for 34 East Main Street. I don't think that, is anyone representing anybody here?
I don't think so.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I spoke with Alan a little bit, Alan Olson, about this today. I do have a few questions and things I'd like to go over on this, so I wonder if we maybe wanna do the suburban correlation first, that's your choice. I mean, I don't think I'll be too long. Some of them, I think, some of the questions will, I think, go to you and Dave as being on the Affordable Housing Trust, if I've got that right.
Well, I can end this really quick, Gary.
Yeah,
As
this
presented, it's not right. We met with him, and he was gonna change this, so that gave us one affordable, 2-bedroom affordable unit and one bedroom. And then this document here doesn't have that. It says 2 1-bedrooms. So I think unless Alan shows up, we move on and have him come back in. Period, because it's not right. I wouldn't offer a letter of support for this right now as presented, because it's not correct.
Well, you know, I've got a cover letter here from Janet, from March 17th. Well, I want to know if the attorney for him.
Yeah, we met with
wanted to
her.
come, yeah, but she wanted to know if she needed to be here tonight, and it was said that Mr. Trapani informed me that would not be necessary back at that meeting.
Well, Again, they put the wrong paperwork
I
in. They
mean, I
put
don't
the
know
old
what
ad.
happened at your meeting, but I. but
So
I-
what
I-
happened at our meeting is that we talked about the, what the configuration of the proposed plan was, and we took a vote, right, on, based on 8 units, that we would have 3 units. Was it two bedrooms and one bedroom?
Yeah, no, it was one and one.
No.
One and one?
Yeah.
One
two bedroom,
and
one-
one bedroom. I'm sorry, I just don't have my notes in front of me.
Right.
So that's what the paperwork should be.
Right, so we can't even consider this
should
until it's
be-
correct, unless Alan's watching and he wants to come down.
Can I ask, he's not in town,
All right, well,
can I
then
ask?
that's the wait.
Well, then, I might as well, since.
Yeah, you can ask. Go ahead. Sure.
We first, as a board, I've got something, I don't know if I got it here, but I believe it was to the Board of Selectmen. I think the letter was actually to the Affordable Housing Trust, asking for a friendly 40B, and it was dated, I think, May 24th of 2015.
Yep.
So quite a bit of time, I don't know what has been the holdup, that 10 months.
No, it's not,
10
he
months-
changed his mind, he was gonna sell it, then he
Okay,
wasn't gonna
this is
do it.
what I'm trying to
I
get
can give you the
to.
background,
I
yeah.
don't know.
It's not any fault of the Affordable Housing Trust. He changed his mind, he was gonna sell it, then he came back, then we talked, then he went in front, the town meeting situation, he was gonna try to change that.
You know,
That thing
was-
is, it's
that
been
would've been
a little bit after, but it's been a moving
Yeah, well,
target.
this letter came in after the town meeting where he didn't do that, so this,
Yeah.
this
He
letter.
didn't come see
and
us
I thought
until-
that it came to the Board of Selectmen, and I mean, so my question would be, as a Board of Selectmen, do we have to rely on the Affordable Housing Trust, or could we still move forward with the friendly 40B?
Well,
as a
based on the
board.
paperwork that he submitted, that's not what we're
No, but I
supporting.
mean, who grants it? Is it the Affordable Housing Trust?
They just need it
or
for the application.
Or the Board of
Both.
Selectmen?
Both, they need it from both for the application.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you that the Affordable Housing Trust wants to move forward with a friendly B, a
And I would
40B.
really like to see this thing move.
We do too,
Yeah.
but I think what has been presented is
Well, if
just
this isn't right.
the
But I can
first.
be this, to tell you this, the last meeting we had with Alan he's finally made up his mind, this is, what he wants to do. And he brought in the plans and showed us, and we sat there with his attorney, and we said, we want a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom. And he wanted to give us the two single bedrooms. And then he changed his mind, and we left and said, all right, now we voted to support it. And now we're waiting, comes here, and I see it's not right. So I don't know what else to say than.
Could I suggest then perhaps maybe the next move is it possible, I don't know how many others are on that board, to have a joint meeting and try to get all the parties together? The
I don't
Board
think
of
it's necessary. I
Selectmen,
think it
the
was,
Affordable Housing Trust,
I think Alan's just gotta submit the right paperwork.
So, Mike, we're trying to have a joint meeting with the FinCom on Wednesday night, right?
Yes.
Well, can we try to get in touch with Alan, if he can just update this draft to the correct application for us to approve, and we can vote on it on Wednesday night?
Meeting's been posted.
Meeting was posted?
Yeah, it needed to be posted at 7 o'clock.
I mean, I wish he was here just to say, yeah, I agree with it, and that's what we,
Well, the attorney would have been here, and I don't know if that would have been helpful, but.
Yeah, I thought somebody was gonna be here to
They were.
represent.
No, we would have absolutely
I
been
didn't
able
wanna
to handle
intervene.
this.
I
It
mean,
was,
it's
you
not
know,
right.
the chair informed that he didn't think it was necessary, but I mean, as you know, I always have a lot of questions, and obviously you do too, so
Yeah.
maybe it could have been resolved.
all right, well then, let's table this then, and we'll have to just tell him that we need the right
You gotta have the
application.
right-
Yeah, it needs to be the right, I mean, how can we write a letter if we don't know what to support?
Right.
I wanna see it move quickly, Gary, too, I really do,
Yeah, I mean,
but it's gotta be right.
All right, let's move on. Let's take care of the Suburban Coalition Chapter 70 funding resolution. Pam, you're leading this charge in town,
I certainly am.
and you and anyone else who's out there, if they want to join. Cheryl?
Just for company,
All right.
and because you're familiar with the effects, any of the
yes.
effects of Chapter 70. Well, thank you so much for having us. And my name is Pam Lundquist. I'm a member of the school committee, the vice chair, and this is
I'm Cheryl Shendro, school committee.
All right. Welcome, ladies.
And I see this as old business for you, so you have taken a look previously at what the Suburban Coalition actually says. But I'd be happy, I'd like an opportunity to just,
Please.
talk a little bit about it.
You have a public opportunity here, so,
We really
Take
do.
advantage of it.
We really do. As you know, Chapter 70 formula provides the largest segment of municipal funding to our town and all of the towns, all municipalities in the state, from the state. And at this time, it's really an outdated formula. It takes a big, and because it is so outdated and it's not taking into account accurately current costs, it takes a really big toll on all of our departments and the entire Georgetown municipal budget. The current Chapter 70 formula, basically it underestimates the true cost of special education, health insurance, and other fixed costs to all school districts, but particularly to smaller school districts. Because, for special education is, when you have a smaller district, you generally can get economies of scale, and it's easier to run high-quality programs when you have a certain number of students with like needs. Kind of an example of this was I'm on the board of director for CREST, which is a special education collaborative of 26 different communities. And at the really interesting meetings, over half of the people on the board are superintendents, and so I get to hear a lot of their experiences. And, the assistant superintendent from Lawrence was saying, we were talking about one particular program for medically fragile children that we have, that the collaborative has. And she doesn't really need to use it because they've got so many students. She says we have 5 classes of different types of medically fragile, students, whereas a small town like Georgetown, we wouldn't have that. And so thus, there would be, certain circumstances when we would need to look out of district, which costs us more than if we had a good quality program here anyway. So you maybe can appreciate how special education generally costs a small district more than it would a larger district. And health insurance as well benefits from economies of scale, as I'm sure you're all familiar with. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the history of Chapter 70 funding. It was established by the Massachusetts Education Reform Act of 1993. Since that time, there have been a few attempts to update it a little bit that have been voted on, but nothing was ever done to it. It was never put into action because of various recessions or economic realities. So in practice, this formula has been the same since 1993. This has kind of resulted in the last 12 years. I have here, it was resulted in statewide, all communities are getting less money. This year, Governor Baker voted a 1.66% increase for all communities for the Chapter 70, and FY16 it was 2.5%, FY15 2.3%, that was a little, FY14 3.1%, FY13 3.1%, FY12 3.65%. So in general, it's going down. And then while the state is getting a 1.66% increase this year, Georgetown, we're getting a 0.66% increase because of various factors in the formula, which are among those that need to be addressed. So who is the Suburban Coalition? They are a nonpartisan organization of local officials advocating for state funding to sustain thriving communities in Massachusetts. This is the only group that brings together boards of selectmen, finance committees, and school committees together so that we can share our collective voice with the state legislator and with the governor and with people on Capitol Hill. So let's see. So what is the Suburban Coalition? What does it do? The Suburban Coalition it's gathering information regarding municipal needs for safety, education, and infrastructure maintenance to our members in the state legislature. legislature who may not be aware of exactly what's happening in every single different town in the Commonwealth. Then they present the information that they've gathered and the support that they've gathered from the various different committees to the state legislature, both in their legislative sessions, and they also have their own conferences that they invite legislators to. They also advocate for the special education circuit breaker and a senior citizen circuit breaker to relieve tax burden for our senior citizens. So what is the resolution that we are asking you to support? Well, you have a copy of it, but kind of the meat of it is, if you permit me to just read this, it says, therefore be it resolved that and it would be the Board of Selectmen in this case, calls on the Massachusetts legislature and the governor of Massachusetts to fully fund and adopt the recommendations of the Foundation Budget Review Commission, which was established by the legislature during the FY16 budget process, in the immediate future. But you can take a look at this. And there's a lot of information, by the way, on suburbancoalition.org if you have any, further questions. But you're welcome to ask me when I'm in just a couple minutes. So why does it make sense for us? Why would we want to be signing it? The current Chapter 70 formula needs to consider accurately the current cost of both special education and health insurance costs for employees, which rises every year. The original intention of Chapter 70 funding was to provide adequate funding to the towns and municipalities so that all could provide an adequate quality education. The funding has decreased and grown less adequate over time. And that's, Chapter 70, I've done quite a bit of reading about it. It wasn't established to provide top of the line first quality education. It was provided so that all the towns and municipalities could offer an adequate education. It is time to reverse direction to fulfill the original purpose of the statute, which it no longer is. So for Georgetown, what are the benefits? One, we can readjust the shared municipal funding so that the state bears more of the burden, providing relief to our own taxpayers. Two, this will result in more appropriately allocated state funding to provide a quality, adequate education for our students, plus the other town services our residents expect and deserve. And, because basic bottom line is, which is I'm sure you all know, is that because Chapter 70 is our largest stream of revenue from the state, it will significantly increase our revenue base eventually, if the process is allowed to move forward. And we're hoping sooner rather than later. So that's kind of my little presentation, and we're just hoping that you all would consider, think about signing your names to a piece of paper that just has your names on it, and then I would have that you would, if you were going to do that, submit it to Bruce Tarr, Lenny Mira, and Dorothy Presser of the Suburban Coalition. Do you have any questions?
Well, first, thank you for coming in. I think it's important that people understand that a 0.66% increase in one of our largest revenue sources, when all these our fixed costs are going up, double digit in many cases, it's kind of embarrassing. It is interesting that the foundation.
$35,000.
Yeah,
It comes to $35,000 more than
an
last
increase
year.
over last year.
$5 a kid?
Probably, yeah, something like that.
It is. It's also interesting that the Foundation Budget Review Commission, which was established, as you said, by the legislature in FY16, they found that if it should be at least $500 million more than the budget, and if it really reflected the true cost, it would be closer to $2 billion more than what's being spent out there.
Correct, yes.
And given the 0.66%, that doesn't sound too ridiculous. I would be happy to have my name affixed to a resolution with others in the state going up to the legislature and telling them how upset these communities are, and the ramifications and the impact that we're feeling because of this.
Great.
Comments,
If I
questions,
may.
guys?
I know that Selectman Fowler and I and Selectman Trapani were in the State House today
Oh,
with
wow.
Senator Tarr. And
Awesome.
Senator Tarr did say, well, you know, what can we do? And I just said, well, you guys can redistribute our money differently.
You did, oh, that's wonderful.
Chapter 90, Chapter 70, because you know as well that when special education law came into effect in Massachusetts, the legislature said that they would provide 75% of the funding for that. And right from the very get, they never did it.
Right,
So when it comes to what the legislature has said they'll do with education, they've never done it,
that's,
okay?
that's right,
And,
yes.
and now the
We
suburban
are in agreement
coalition,
there.
that, I didn't realize how much they had done till I read this list. You know, they've advocated for funding from Chapter 70, but nobody knows how that formula really works. It's really outdated, needs to be. Right, advocated for senior circuit breaker, advocated for special education circuit breaker, supported the Municipal Partnership Act. They opposed question 1, which was to eliminate the state income tax, which I don't agree with.
Sorry about that.
Advocated for growth in state aid for road and bridges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's time that the state steps up to the plate and honors those things that they said that they would do. They just need to redistribute the money differently. And then have a formula created to index it to inflation, whatever, so that we can, because the less we get, the more is required from the taxpayers. And the more we have to, the taxpayers have to spend on education, the more it takes away from other departments and other things that we want to do.
Definitely, it does, and we're, yes.
So I'm all for this. As soon as you talked about that, I said, yeah, I'm for that.
Oh, good.
And I'd be happy to sign that, absolutely.
That's
And I thank you
terrific.
for bringing it forward.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you for your support.
I have one quick question. So,
Yes.
it's all well and good to pressure the legislature, but did they actually come up with a formula? And did we look at what that formula would be and how much more would put in our budget?
Well, if you look in the position paper on the website, it does go into the details of what this foundation committee, what is it, the Foundation Budget Review Commission has come up with. And so, yes, it would be a reconfiguration
But
of
did
the
we
formula.
actually look at
Honor
what we're getting
the
now?
original. Well, I'm sure, I mean, every community would get more. And if they correctly assessed what our special education costs were, then we would definitely get more. Exactly how much more? Is that what you're,
Well, no, I just wanted,
Asking.
if you ran us, I mean, it's all well and good to support something,
yeah.
but again, I'm all for trying to get more money from the state and they should live up to their obligations. However, I'd like to know what the numbers are. We're getting, just picking up $100,000 today and, you know, whatever the Suburban Coalition is
We're getting
suggesting.
about six.
I'm just picking a number. I'm
Yeah.
not, you know, I'm just saying, using an example. Is it gonna go from 100 to 200? Is it gonna go from 100 to 125? Is it gonna go, you know,
You kind of have to
sometimes careful what you
extrapolate
wish
from that
for.
2 billion. I mean, and then, you know, there's the wish and there's the, what would it be if you actually honored your intention that was originally
Right.
set forth in 1993? And then there's talk and compromise and, you know, I mean, I'm not sure how the process would go, but I am in favor of starting the ball rolling to begin the process.
You know, to get to the 2 billion and to get to that 500,000, they obviously either changed the form or added more income. Whether they changed the formula or not,
Right.
that's one thing.
Well, the formula's.
But this will, you know, what they say, if you sign, if this resolution is passed and adopted by, you know, the Mass General Legislature there, the Mass Legislature, then the result will be in a more appropriate allocated state funding.
Again, but I just like to
We
see, you know
just-
me, I like to see. the
Yeah, but
numbers.
you
like-
don't
yeah.
know if they're gonna give a 100 million, a billion, or
Right.
they're not gonna give
No,
2
but
billion.
then,
we
but
know
then the
that.
gate, then some of the cities and towns that are getting the most of the money, you know, may get more. You know, we may get a little bit of an increase, but it's just, it's not fair.
Yeah.
The formula itself, looking at it, is,
Well-
it favors the, you know, the poorer cities, obviously.
Right,
And-
right.
But then
we
there's
also
also
need to
some
have a
outliers
floor.
where you've got affluent cities getting a good chunk of money too, and you look at it and you say, you're serious? So, you know, I just would like to have known what our, if they adopted those recommendations, what our number would change to, that's all. That's
Oh, a lot
Well,
of it.
I am going to a Day on the Hill on April 26th with Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and we're going to specifically be, talking about where we're at and what's happening with this in the process. And, I'd be happy to make that, whatever I learn,
Yeah, if you can get
available,
that
and you're
back to
giving me
Mike.
ideas for questions that I
Yeah.
can ask, too.
Okay. I mean, before I, push somebody, I wanna know what I'm pushing them for.
Sure.
$2
I'd like to know
billion
some, I'd like to
in,
know some more
Yeah,
specifics,
where's that
too.
gonna come from? They're just gonna print the money like the federal government does? I
Well,
mean,
Senator
come on.
Carr said the tax revenues are up for this year.
But then the
Collections
formula
or
in
what?
place would reflect that, right? If there was more funding there, if the budget is done properly, that would, still push our number anyway, without having to do something like this. That's just something.
Well, I mean, revenues are up, but our increase is not up. Our increase is down. So
Well, it's not a
what's going
final
on
budget,
there?
Gary. Do we have a final budget yet?
Oh,
And
we're
I
not
know I
close.
know,
But that's my
that
point.
the answer to that is very complicated, and I know the state has its fixed costs as well. But
But even if you
Less.
look at the prior years, it's still
Updated.
Oh, no, it's
ridiculous.
declining.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, it's declining, and that's,
Right. Gary?
It just, if I could say, the state has a great way of making promises and then letting you down. But
I have no doubt.
I see nothing wrong with signing this tonight, but what generally happens, what's this, seventh budget season or the eighth that we're going into, David? You've been here doing this, and I can see
10th
that
for me,
man, that man over there, yeah, you've been on finance for a while, that man sitting over there generally comes in with the good news and the bad news. And the good news could be that you get us $100,000 increase in Chapter 70 funding. And then he's gonna tell us, but the bad news is that they
That's
took,
my point.
they took $105,000 away over here.
In lieu of taxes.
And the budget is continually like that. And there's only so much to go around. And as I say, we could perhaps get an increase here, but be prepared for a decrease somewhere else. And how is that gonna even off is gonna be the trouble. And that's the way it is every year. And it seems to change. It's not the same every year. One year they come in higher at this, but lower than that, but it doesn't it seem to happen that way every year, Mike?
Yes, Gary, it
Yeah.
does.
What's the increase in local aid this year?
4.2%,
In dollars?
$60,000.
You can't take much more away.
I mean, it's a very valid concern, and again, you're helping me to think through what I'm gonna be asking when I go to this Day on the Hill. But I would say that, from everything I've read about, everything I know about the Suburban Coalition, they are basically advocating for increased municipal funding all over. I mean, they are concerned about, the police department and the highway department and the fire department and the senior, council of aging. They are working, we're looking at the whole big picture of municipalities.
It all comes from somewhere, or it goes to tax increase to fund it in another way. So that's,
Well, they've got to redirect funds at the state level, and there's got to be some significant cuts that have to happen at the state level, and that's to be determined. I mean, we haven't seen that. Or the alternative is to raise taxes, and that's the worry as well. But,
Right.
they're going to do that one way or the other, with,
Well,
as they do anyhow.
The Baker administration has really made a promise to increase local aid to cities and towns. That was something that Charlie ran on from day one.
Yeah.
No, wait, he has given, as soon as he got in office, he released a lot of money for pothole repair and all that stuff. And I know that, 4%, I mean, that's still $1.5 million budget that we're getting, money that we're getting from the state, right, Mike? If it's a 4.5%.
No, it was only 4% of the undesignated government,
Right.
which we only get.
60.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't include Chapter 70,
No, I understand.
which we get $5.6 million.
Right,
They
so we're
got
still
it.
getting a big chunk of money from the state. It's not think that we're not getting a big chunk of money for all, the state is contributing a good amount of money to our budget.
They are, but
It's
it
decreasing every year.
never,
I understand.
I mean, we used to get 37% of our budget
Yep.
from the state.
Yep.
Now we get less than 34%. And we've never got that. They cut it and cut it and cut it. And even, with a 4.6% increase,
Still
it's gonna
below.
take
I agree.
you know, a dozen years to get back to the
I mean,
37%.
Mandates, which translate into our fixed costs, keep going up.
I agree.
And
Okay. If I could get someone to, motion to accept and support the Suburban Coalition Chapter 70 resolution as presented.
So move.
And a second.
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
Well, I just think it's important to let the legislature know, the more input they have from the electorate, the more maybe they'll listen and do something. And that's, we're not committing to anything, we're just saying, we'd like you to take this under consideration.
I just, did you have any thoughts or you, pretty much, you've had this discussion with the
Yes.
school committee,
We
so.
have.
Yes,
So-
we have.
Go ahead, Gary.
I'd like to ask our town administrator, finance director's opinion on this. I mean, he's the guy that tells me the good news, the bad news every year, so I mean,
Well, Suburban Coalition keeps the pressure on the state legislature. Between them and the Mass Municipal Association, we try to keep the legislature informed and have them hold up their bargains, whatever they make. They seem incapable of upholding their ends of the bargains, however. But they're both good organizations that are looking out for the local government's best interests.
And we're really just giving the coalition more oomph. The more communities they have and boards in the communities that they have, the more,
It just builds their credibility.
that's right.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Well, give me whatever you want to have signed. We'll
Thank
be
you.
happy to sign it.
Appreciate that very much. Appreciate your support and your taking the time to listen.
Of course, this is, we have to pressure these guys. I mean, this is
Yes.
crazy.
Yes, we will do that. We will
Right.
do that. So
I'm
thank
not
you.
going to walk
And
away without this.
Janet will, have something for you to say.
Thank you,
so-
Miriam, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want this before you leave this evening?
Well, do you know how to get it? You have fax numbers and, mailing addresses, so you can send it along with a
Yeah, 'cause
copy
it's
of the
gotta go to,
resolution. That's-
Our reps
thank
and,
you.
Okay.
Dorothy Presser.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you very much for coming in and for everything you're doing. Okay, why don't we talk about the, notice of intent to sell 240 Andover Street. So I understand this, if I read this through. So basically, this property at 240 Andover Street has got a 61B designation on it, which is some tax relief for farmland on it, agriculture and stuff like that.
Recreation.
And when they want to sell this, they have to first notify us, and we have first right of refusal to take action if we want on this, right? Oh, I'm sorry, come on up.
Are you the bones?
We're just here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay,
All right,
We're the owners of 240
come on
Andover.
up, come on up.
welcome.
Thank you.
So for the record, could you give us your name and address?
Jill Bowden.
Hey, Jill. 240 Andover Street, I guess.
Actually, that's the place of business, 86 Lakeshore, Boxford.
Gotcha, 86
I'm
inch.
Ben, her husband.
All right. Well, good evening, guys.
Good evening.
I'm glad
Thank
you're here.
you.
We usually don't get too many guests here, so it's a surprise when someone is out
I
there.
think that's us.
All right, so, you guys are looking to move the property.
We operate under a special permit which the town requires, and when the property is sold, it doesn't transfer. So the new owner has to apply for a special permit.
Yep.
You get a denial from the building inspector, that gets you into the Board of Appeals, and you fill out an application. We did this 18 years ago when we bought it.
Sounds like the process hasn't gotten any better.
But we stood in front of the Board of Appeals, and they looked at us and said, well, this has to be offered to the town. And I said, well, we want to buy it. We're not the owners. The owner's not here. I'll ask the question, are you guys interested in buying the property? And they looked at each other back and forth and said, no, we're not interested in buying the property. And they issued us our special permit. And here we are 18 years later, we're just trying to do a little bit better so this new buyer doesn't end up in front of the Board of Appeals in that same kind of a situation. Everyone we've talked to over the 18 years has said that the town is not interested in the property. They don't want to borrow any more money, and they want to keep it on the payroll.
I would suspect you probably get that from most people on many different boards. Sure, if we had cash, we'd love to buy it. It'd be a beautiful piece of property there. So, Mike, on our end, what do we need to do?
Well, we've started the process. Step one was to receive a notice of intent from the landowners. And we have to be able to certify that it's a bona fide offer. I shared the offer with the legal counsel, and they have a slight question, not a slight question, they have a question whether the offer is a bona fide offer only because we're only interested in the land, the property. This includes the personal property too.
Yep.
In the sale price. Horse equipment, blankets.
He has that in there, but there's nothing like that transferring to him. Everyone that we do business with has their own stuff. He put that in there in case there's stuff that goes with the farm or whatever. There really isn't. My wife runs her business there in 20 stalls, and her brooms are her brooms, her horse blankets are her horse blankets, buckets.
Well, nevertheless, he said to go forward as if it was a bona fide offer till we got an explanation, which, you know, seems reasonable. But so we notified today all the town boards and budding landlords, and that begins the 120-day right of first refusal process. It's up to the board now to organize a meeting to discuss this refusal option with the various bodies in the town. And you can also assign the right of first refusal to another organization, similar to Greens. I always get that mixed.
Right.
Pardon?
Green Belt.
Yes, a land preservation organization like them. So they need to be, well, we don't have to contact them directly, but I'm pretty sure the Conservation Commission, as part of their due diligence, will, and the Open Space Committee as well.
Right.
So we need to, within the next, I believe we were told 35 days, the board needs to meet with or receive input from these organizations, and then make a decision whether or not we want to exercise our right of first refusal.
Okay, so if I understand that, since I don't think the town is in a Assuming we're not, I haven't talked to anyone in CPC or anything like that, but I assume that all the monies are gone, or allocated, or earmarked for some projects this year, and we don't have that much money anyhow, but, so, our task then is to, coordinate with the other, boards, planning, conservation, et cetera, and find out if they're going to contact any of the, third-party land preservation organizations out there and hold a meeting to discuss and come to a decision whether they want to consider the first right of refusal option?
Yes.
Okay.
It seems like, you know, all this has to be done only if it's change of use. We're not selling it for change of use.
That's right.
This is staying exactly the way it is. Open space is being saved. It's remaining a horse farm. This isn't being
The business
sold
is
to
still the
a
same.
developer or
My understanding of
something.
that is exactly what you just said. If
Well-
the intent of the use of the property changed, then we have to go through this process, but it seems that the intent isn't to change it.
Right. And we did all this paperwork and stuff knowing that, you know, I don't think we really have to do this, but let's go to the nth degree and try and do it correctly so that the Board of Appeals doesn't have any questions. But since it's not change of use, I don't think any of this comes up.
Question to that, Mr. Chair?
Well, I can answer that, because I
It
had
says
that
to-
conversation with
Yeah.
legal counsel today, and if it doesn't change use, you're not subject to the tax penalty. But if it changes owners, the town does have right of first refusal, even if your proposed use, it doesn't matter what the proposed use is. Pardon me, the town has the right of first refusal upon sale to
Mike-
anybody,
Mike,
for any reason.
this
they
is
don't have-
a state document, and this is from the state. This is a document says Town of Georgetown procedure for exercising first refusal.
This is from our legal counsel.
This is from our legal counsel. So, according to our legal counsel, it says, the document is intended to serve as a guide for municipal staff, boards, residents of town, outlining general steps to be followed when landowners in town intend to convert or sell their 61A or 61BD. So, the position of our attorney, obviously is clear that if it's just transferring, and you're telling me that you don't believe that that's true only if it's only going to be converted to another use?
That's the way we've read the document.
Okay.
That's the way my lawyer read the document. But we decided to do this anyway, just to,
We want to make sure we're not
Yep.
impeding, we're following the law as well, so, go ahead, Gary.
Well, just going forward, if we take that avenue, let me ask, I don't know how you've put the parcel up for sale, but my question, I guess, would be, have you been approached by anybody in trustees of the reservations or Essex County Greenbelt at all to purchase your property recently? Yeah, so
No.
there's been no,
we've tried to sell it
It's
on and
been
off for at least
online.
the last 10 years.
so it's been
It's
out,
been on the
so it's been
market.
out there and nobody in them organizations has tried to pick it up.
Mm.
So I really doubt
It's been
that they're gonna be
listed
interested in it, so.
on the MLS, it's
They're
been
only
listed.
Have
interested
you
in
been-
connecting
have
pieces
you been-
and.
Has the sale been trying to sell it as is because you're concerned about going forward, the property and the way it's run? That's part of the sale? Or would you just sold it to,
What is this?
Yeah,
you've been trying to sell it, you said it's been out there for 10 years.
yes.
On and
The
off.
question, so
Different,
the question
really.
is, are you trying to sell it that whoever takes it over continues working it as a horse farm like you have? Is that part of what you want as a sale agreement?
Ideally, that's kind of, but
Yes.
we're staying on with
I'm
the
gonna
new owner.
continue my
She's gonna
business
lease
there.
20 stalls and.
Yeah.
he's
And
gonna
do the
hire-
riding school and,
So, I guess the reason is, I mean, we've got, somebody could sell it and say they're gonna be doing that, and then in a year from now, they go, well, it's not working out for us, goodbye, it's up for sale for house lots, like.
but it
many
would be in
others.
61B, so that would be their
but I'm
Their
getting the
choice to
impression
come
that
to
that
you
doesn't move
guys.
forward with the purchase, that moves forward, that's with your owner, and I guess the next owner would have to ask for that, I guess.
Right. I
That's-
think this next owner has plans to stay there and actually do quite well in his business. And actually to bring,
We're staying there too.
yeah,
No
we
one's
are
leaving.
too, and to grow that business and to put more, work into it to make it beautiful, what it was from the beginning. I mean, it's a hard business, the horse business, so to make it upscale and have
So, Mike-
horse shows and get people back into
I'm
this
sorry.
town to enjoy the facility.
Good job, buddy. That's enough.
No, thank you. We don't run into 61Bs a lot in town. There's a lot less agricultural land that people are trying to get turned into agricultural land. Mostly it's on the other side. Mike, I got a question for you on 61B. So I know with the town, the Black Swan Country Club, they approached us when they were purchasing and they wanted to remove that 61B. And they had to pay a tax penalty and going forward as well. Do we have, as a town, does the town have the right to say yes or no, or do we have to just accept the request and the homeowners has that liability? Do we have any say whether they can?
They don't have to apply for the exemption. They have to, actually, I believe they have to apply for it every year.
Right, but if they decide that they don't want to apply for it, what's the impact for a homeowner?
They pay the.
Back taxes?
Yes,
For how many, for a period of time?
for as long as they've received it.
Okay. So that's would be the homeowner if they were going to actually, or the property owner, whoever wants to buy this property, if they did ever want to do that, there would be probably a significant tax
conveyance
implication.
tax.
We didn't refill out the 61B application.
Right, which would mean that would be off the books for fiscal year 2017.
Yeah.
So
So
there
when
would
we
be no
say-
61B for all of fiscal year 17.
When was the last time you actually applied for it?
2 years ago.
Okay.
And so we got into it. We were, there's a whole conversation here. We were misled getting into this. But anyway.
We were very misled.
I didn't redo the application. I said, we're not doing this and we're proceeding on with selling the property as is, and we don't think there's any real issue here. I mean, maybe your town lawyer seems to think there is, but
So if
I
I,
don't think the town wants it.
so let me ask you, so you did not apply again for the 61B for the last year or two?
This last October it had to be in. We didn't do it.
What's the?
It runs out
It runs out, but
June 30th.
But isn't there a tax implication, a penalty?
It reverts to the regular.
No,
Okay, I just
there
want to double
isn't,
check.
but the sale, the right of first refusal still applies.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So right now, it's not a 61B property then?
Yes,
I guess it is till
Or it isn't
June or something.
30th, I think.
Or at least
By
we're
the
getting
time
that.
this transfers, it may not be.
Right.
Do you have a purchase and sale agreement
But
yet?
he just said they still have the.
We just have the
Just
the
because
offer. We're
because it is
hoping to
Right
sign
now-
this
Considered
week.
today still a 61B, okay. I got you.
Yes, we're trying.
Part
the
of his
purchase and sale
financing's
is-
come through. Part of it, small business loan, I think, is another.
Right, at
2
the end of
weeks out.
April, we'll be signing the purchase and sale agreement.
Mr. Chairman, based on what I've read here and the process is, once we receive this notice, if we don't act within 120 days, the right of first refusal dissolves.
That's correct.
So we have 120 days.
I think the 120 days is to do your diligence if you want it and come up with the financing. I don't think it's to decide yes
Yes,
or no.
that-
Mentioned something
I'm
about
saying if-
35 days to try to
If
set up
we
meetings.
don't act, just hypothetical, if we didn't take any action from 10 days from the date that we get the notice, 120 days from then, it automatically, the option goes away.
We have 120 days to hand them $1.2 million.
Right, if we don't, it's over.
Yeah.
What was the
You're free to
35
sell
day
it,
thing?
you're free to
What-
sell it without the option, this is an embedded option in a contract. And what it's saying is that we have the right to purchase the property. If after 120 days, I think it's 10 days after notice, within 120 days from that point, if we don't do anything, the option dissolves, where the town is out. and you can sell it to whoever you want. I'm just using that as a benchmark, not
But
saying
if
we're
we
gonna
wait that
drag it
long, our
on.
buyer
You
disappears.
may walk, right, I understand,
That's
right,
right,
but I'm
that's
just
why
pointing it
we're
out to the board, if you read it,
Trying to ask
we
the
take
town.
option C, you know, I was thinking about, why can't we just do it tonight, but we can't, we're legally bound to notify the Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Board of Assessors, CPC, Agricultural Commission, do we have an
No,
agricultural?
David,
Did that.
you're not
These
legally
guys all
bound.
got
1 through 5 is, if you, there's a disclaimer on there. Steps 1 through 5 are not legal requirements.
Well, I thought, if you read number 6, following receipt of legally sufficient notice of intent, which we got, and the
Yes.
completion of such administrative reviews set forth in steps 1 through 5 above. As the town chooses to use, the Board of Selectmen must decide which of the 3 options it wishes to pursue. A,
But
B,
we
or C.
don't have to choose any of the above.
You don't have to do 1 through 5?
No,
So we can decline it tonight if we want.
I believe you may.
See, I thought we had to go through those 1 through 5 steps.
No, legal counsel's recommending that you do.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
The new owner, does he plan on applying for a 61B for fiscal year 2018?
I don't know that. I could find out tomorrow what his plan is. He's a horse guy.
Yeah, I think he
He's
does.
got-
I think with our, sorry for interrupting, I think with my conversation with him and going through all this is that he would just continue it as 61B because the reason we did this was for a tax break. In the end, we were kind of misled into it, but he would clearly want that.
Has he
So-
stated that?
I believe not. He hasn't stated to me, but talking, he said yes, I would continue
Why
it
does it
as
matter?
a 61B.
I don't think it matters.
And then he may go into in the future of 61A into like
I
a
think
breeding.
the 61B, when you have that, that's where you wind up with the right of first refusal. So there'd be nothing to stop him a year from now, or 2 years from now, saying, well, I'm just gonna sell this. See, what we have in front of us is an offer to purchase. We don't have a purchase and sale agreement. And,
Because we don't have one
Right,
quite
I
yet.
understand.
Yeah, it's on my phone,
no, I understand.
but it's coming. It's in
And
2 weeks here, so that's why we're here.
Mr.
So-
Chairman, oh, sorry, Ken. I'm sorry, Doug, go ahead, sorry.
See, it's gonna be like possibly 30 days to get in front of the Board of Appeals, unless somehow we can get in there quickly. I'm not sure exactly when they meet, but I think it's the beginning of the month, and I think it's only once a month.
So he's a horse guy. Has he owned other horse businesses?
Yes,
He's a horse
he owns
guy.
Boston Polo Club, and he's situated in Hamilton right now, leasing, and now he has.
Is he affiliated with Myopia or?
Different
No,
polo.
different, but plays against them.
It's a working's man's
well,
polo,
well-
not a myopia hunt club polo.
Yeah, well, my concern would just be that because the 61B falls off the rolls, I believe it's the last day of this fiscal year, and nobody has applied for the 61B to go into the new fiscal year, which, the way I was explained to me, that it should have been done in the fall.
We didn't do it.
Right, and you didn't do it, that now this 61B falls off the
Isn't that good
property.
for you guys? You guys are
For
getting the
fiscal
full
year
tax
17.
money.
I mean, yes and no. Yes, I mean, I think from a, putting it back on the tax roll would be great. I think the others would probably have a different view in saying at some point we would like to offer it up to other, I mean, look, you're taking advantage of the tax benefit, in compliance to the 61B. That's up to you if you guys wanna do it, and we can't stop you from doing that. If you don't wanna do it, we can't stop you from doing that either. It's certainly your decision. I think just the question that I have, and I'm not a land guy here in town, I don't know if those, other third-party entities such as Essex Greenbelt or the trustees have any interest in this or not. And because we've given you the benefit and you've applied for the benefit in return of the taxes, we still have that obligation to consider our options as well in terms of first right of refusal out there.
You would rather have it purchased by Greenbelt than a private buyer?
I can't give you my personal view on it because I don't know enough about the property, to be honest with you. I don't like taking property that's good property that has value to it off tax rolls. This hasn't been on the tax rolls.
Yeah, it has. We pay our taxes,
Well-
we have for 18
well,
years.
the-
It's just this past year, we got a teeny bit of a benefit.
The
for
benefit, I'm
61B.
saying, that tax benefit.
Tiny bit, it
Yeah.
wasn't worth it in
It's
the
not
end.
much.
I don't know that it's that much
It
of a
wasn't.
tax break.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't.
It is.
So,
We were misled, as I said.
I'm confused. Of course, generally always confused, but in this case, I'm really confused. So if you didn't apply for the 61B, and that expired, right?
It hasn't yet.
It hasn't yet. It'll expire
July 1
July 1 of
this year.
this year.
Yeah.
But they said they didn't apply for it.
We
When was the
didn't-
last
'Cause
time you
it's
applied?
fiscal,
We
so-
only did once, and that was
How long ago?
2 years ago, a year from last October.
Right, so how would that apply? It
November 18th, 2014. It was
Yeah.
recorded in the Registry of
right,
Deeds.
so it's a 1 year?
It
Yeah, so
started in 15.
It starts a
Right,
year,
that
a
was
year
for
later.
15.
you sure it ends June 30th of 16, or did it
It
June
takes a
30th
year.
of 15?
I don't know when it ends,
It ends June 30th of 16.
but it's the fact that it was in gives us the right of first refusal.
So,
But if it was, oh, so then, under that thought process, if this was done 10 years ago, and they didn't do anything after that, aren't you supposed to put it on every year, or it stays with the property forever?
You gotta reapply every year.
You
Yeah.
have to reapply.
Right. You have to reapply every year to give the town the right to buy the property first? Why would you do that?
I know.
We were
Don't even get me
misled.
going.
We were misled.
It's not right. Well, I don't think what we're saying here is right, but anyway,
It's-
if there is
We-
a
we-
61, if
It's
there's,
for the tax benefit, and
well, for doing that, they get a tax break, is what you're telling me?
It was a very
It
small
was
one.
really minimal.
We went
Why go through all that
16,
trouble?
well,
Yeah.
we went
To give us an
16
option to buy it first.
Yeah.
And create more roadblocks for yourself, for
Right.
how much
Yeah.
you're saving.
Not-
It's nothing.
All right, so that being said, so that's number one. Number two is, can I just make a suggestion from a process perspective? Can we do this? Can we, the Board of Selectmen, send a letter to those six entities: Conservation, Planning, Board of Assessors, Open Space, Agricultural Commission, and Historical? Send them a letter saying that this property is going to be sold. Do they have a concern, and do they want to be heard? If they say no,
a letter
We're
went
done.
out today.
Okay.
all right, so now it's just a matter of waiting, and hopefully it comes back. Did you give them a deadline to respond, Mike?
No, I told them the board would be holding a meeting to discuss, and
Why hold a meeting? If there's no interest, there's no interest.
Well, we won't hold a meeting if there isn't. I mean, that's. so
No,
don't
but
worry
there's
about
been
that.
no get back to us by a certain date to let us know, right?
no, I was just letting them know that we received this, that we now have an offer, for first refusal.
Right.
And the selectmen are gonna be seeking your input on whether to exercise it or not.
Yeah, so we're gonna hold a meeting so they can come in and say they don't want it. To me, I think there's just a communication back, a letter back to the selectmen that said, Conservation says we're not interested, we're not interested. I mean, why prolong the process and have another meeting? Have them respond in writing that says we're not interested. If we're not interested, we get all 6 letters the next meeting, we vote, we say we're not interested, and these people can just move on with their life.
Thank you.
Why
Thank you.
why are we delaying this?
We're not.
Right.
We're not
We're
delaying.
not.
We're following the legal process here.
No, but I'm saying, the legal process doesn't say send an open-ended letter and wait until you get a response.
We're
'Cause
gonna
we're gonna
have a
hold a meeting.
meeting.
I want
April
you to
11th is
set
our
a-
next
set a
meeting.
meeting
If they wanna come on
and
April
tell them
11th
to
to our
come.
meeting, bring their entity with them.
Alright,
And
so if nobody shows up, we're gonna
Well,
we're gonna decline.
Well, if they don't give us the notice that they're going to be here, we'll let the homeowners, the property owners know, so they don't have to come, and we can just
Vote that
vote,
way.
vote to let you do
right.
what you want with
Okay,
it.
so by the next, so let's get this straight, so they can walk out of here knowing what's going on. Is the next meeting,
April 11th.
if any of these 6 commissions have interest in the property, they'll be here to voice their concern. If they're not here, that to me is a no, and I'll be the first one to make the motion that we decline. How's that?
Thank you.
This way you have some concrete stuff so you can plan and,
And maybe Mike could let us know if somebody's showing up, so we could be here too.
right, right,
Okay.
good.
I'll let you know.
We just
when-
need this, so
All right, well, I was
we
just-
get the
just- we're
paperwork
kinda
for the
going
Board
around
of
and around.
We're
Appeals.
trying to
So we can
move
get the
on
special
and-
permit to
Right, you got a
transfer,
purchase
that's
and
what
sale
this
to
all is.
execute and
Well, I don't
stuff.
think
when
any
do
of
you
this
expect to
process is mutually exclusive for you getting your ZBA, getting on the agenda. You should do that regardless of what goes on here, or how long ever it takes.
But the meeting can't go on with them unless you guys have signed off. Or
Yeah,
I'll do
if
it,
you-
Well-
and I'll try and get them to vote like they did when I bought the
Get
property.
on the
Where do they go to
agenda,
ZBA? I'm lost on that.
and then, if you don't have the letter by then, withdraw.
So you gotta
Oh,
go to
wait.
the ZBA
Why- Mike, can you
for the
explain to us-
61B application?
Why do they have to go to the ZBA? Can you explain that to us?
Well, he explained it very clearly, because they need a special permit to operate a horse farm in that area.
Yeah, but he's selling the property. That's for the next owner, not him, right?
Well,
The next
But
owner
the-
has to get
Facilitating
a
it.
special permit.
Right.
Yeah.
So if
When
you
it's
sell
When we
it,
sell it, ours dissolves and his has to go into effect, so it has to be done before the closing.
Yeah.
So that there's no interruption in the permit.
Right.
right.
He's not gonna purchase it not knowing if
right,
if he's gonna be declined,
right.
his.
But why is that your responsibility to go ahead and file with the ZBA? Wouldn't be?
It isn't. This is our responsibility,
Right.
and he needs this to
And
go
he's
with his
gonna go to ZBA.
application to the Board of Appeals
All
to,
right, good.
to do
That's-
the special
right.
permit.
You keep saying you're going there. I'm thinking, why would you go there?
No.
You're out.
Sorry, I
Yeah, all
misspoke.
right. Now I'm getting. Again, I'm generally confused.
What's the proposed close date?
Closing?
What's it projected?
April
No,
or
it
May
was the 18th. I
18th,
think
we
it got
went to
delayed
May
May something.
20th,
I'll know tomorrow.
May 20th.
That's a more realistic timeline
Right,
based on what
right.
we have.
Yeah,
to do.
because of all the things
Right.
that have to, May 20th.
He
is the-
still has to do environmental. It's a commercial loan, so
SBA is not going to be quick either. Heck of a- oop, shouldn't
Well,
say
no, they just, I know that SBA is April, his approval is
the Elder Bank
April
approved
8th.
it, but part of it's
He's doing-
SBA.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of conditions though.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so one way or the other, we will communicate you the Thursday before the 11th. But just
Okay, thank
tentatively
you.
put that on the date. Mike, by that Thursday, if anyone wants to attend, and they have, and if they're interested in bringing a third party to be part of that conversation, that's their one and only chance to do that Monday on the 11th. I don't want to hold these folks up on this. I think if this is, I don't know. It's just it sounds like a little bit of a mess here, but
My lawyer's
And I
gonna
believe
fix
the
it,
lawyer
okay.
did send, certified to, the Conservation Commission, State Forester,
He already sent the.
Planning Board,
They've all got,
the board.
they
yeah,
all should have this.
Selectmen,
They've all-
assessors, planning board,
Yeah,
conservation,
so everyone,
and the state forester of Department of Conservation.
probably
and
just,
He's in here. He
Green
signed
belt.
off on it already.
Yeah, okay. Are you guys comfortable with the plan of action?
I guess, yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's
I
just
thought it would be easier than
Oh, you guys are
that,
just-
but
the long arm of government.
yep, yeah.
Hang in there. We have hopefully this in a couple weeks when we get back together.
I'll talk with Mike.
Either will or
yeah,
won't.
before that meeting. That meeting's a Monday. Do you meet on Mondays?
Monday.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll talk with you by that Thursday before.
Well, I hope this new arrangement works out for you all.
Thank you. We're gonna
Thank you.
be staying on and stuff. It took a long time to find the right guy. I think we did.
yep,
So
ready to move
I'm
on.
excited. I can still tell my friends in the city that we have horse farms in Georgetown.
you
so-
should come up.
Yep.
It's a
When
great
it
place.
warms
She
up,
gives-
I'm
she
bringing my
gives
grandson by.
Yes, horseback
Me and
riding.
Buster.
muscle.
Oh, no, he's only 19 months, but he'll want to
Now he's
I
ready.
love it, we have great ponies.
Pony rides.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for coming in, and we will
Thank
be
you
in touch
very
as
much.
well.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Excellent.
Chairman, real quick, can we revisit one item now that I give it a little more thought, real quick. I
Possibly.
know we got people waiting, but
Possibly.
can we get back to that 40B for 1 second?
Sure.
Could we, looking at the application again, the one line that bothers me is, it says, we're proposing to renovate the building into condominium building. There'll be 8 total units comprised of 6 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units. Then it says 2 of the one-bedroom units will be affordable units, and the remainder will be at market price. Could we consider could we consider our letter of support be specific and spell out that we would support it, we firmly support it with one bedroom and 1 two-bedroom? Because I think that's, Alan verbally agreed to that, and that's what the Affordable Housing Trust had voted. So rather than hold up his project, could we authorize, I'll make the motion, authorize the chairman to sign a letter of support for the 40B for 34 East Main Street, with the understanding that there would be one one-bedroom unit and 1 two-bedroom unit as affordable. Everything else is fine.
Well,
That's my motion, I make that motion.
So I was, okay. Thank you.
So we're authorizing you to take a look at that. You're on the Affordable Housing Trust, you know what's going on. Because I don't want to hold Alan's project up either. That wasn't my intent at all.
Okay. Are you guys comfortable with that? I mean, they have to, first of all, they have to, the 40B is friendly, has
Just
got
a
to be
letter.
within
Let's still go
the,
back to some of my, just basically one of my questions, how's that? But if we're in discussion, I mean,
Yep.
you've got a motion.
Yeah.
And that is, how do we fill the affordable units, and is there a cost associated to the town in following these up?
There's no cost in following up, because they go on the there's a deed rider that's put on it, and the DHCD gives us credit towards our towards our number. And the trust and the task force kind of keep an eye on those, so there's no real cost, that's all, we're volunteers, like everybody else. There's no real cost. There is a cost for the deed rider piece, right? So, there's some legal work that, that we would have to do and stuff, but other than that, there's no real cost.
If I get to it, I guess the reason I'm asking about how are they filled, I mean, we've got, what's the,
you mean through the lottery?
Yeah, there'll be a lottery. there'll be
what's
all
the
that.
board that does the elderly, what's the term?
Affordable.
Georgetown Housing Authority?
Your Georgetown
Oh,
Housing
right.
Authority.
This
So this
is-
is separate from that.
That is absolutely possible.
So
We
now-
could hire them to do the lottery and, help us fill those units, but it's not under the purview of the Georgetown Housing Authority. This is under the
Okay, that
purview
was
of.
one question.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have a town planner, but part of the town planner was that he worked for the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right.
So some of that pay, I imagine,
Yep.
goes to this. He must do some of that.
Yep.
My concern is, down the road, are we creating another board? Or down the road, do we see this as our, I keep forgetting what they're called, housing authority?
No, it has nothing to do with
Mhm.
Georgetown Housing Authority, just like all the other units that we have.
Should it?
No.
I guess that's a
no,
question. Think
No,
about
it's
it going
separate.
down
It's
the road.
separate and
That's
distinct.
a state agency.
Yeah.
Is your question regarding the maintenance and oversight of the properties that
No,
are
not
out
so
there?
much the maintenance and
In terms of
oversight.
dollars?
What it is as this moves forward, and I know that there's a real plan to get more affordable units on into town.
Mhm.
And as we get more, what will the cost be to the town
There is no
going
cost.
forward to,
There's a cost to acquire, right? It could be a cost to acquire if we're gonna put a deed rider on somebody's
well,
house.
I know that the Affordable Housing Trust has been looking, I guess, at somewhat of possibly trying to build some apartments someplace,
Right.
from what I understand. Cause I hear this because of CPC.
Right.
We talk about the CPC funds a certain amount there, so these questions get asked there. So I guess that's it, but I mean, that's it, I'll
In
end
theory,
I'll end my
right.
line of questioning, I mean,
No, those are good
I
questions.
Yeah,
'cause-
in theory, there's no cost to the town going
Okay.
forward, significant cost. If we were gonna rent, the rent pays for an agent to run the building.
Okay,
If, in this case, we do pay, and right now we're using Howard, we're paying him separately, to help us through, the projects that we have. So there is some cost there, administrative cost, but, other than that, no, not
I
really.
guess now to the, let me in the past, haven't we had like some deed writers on places? I mean, this would be a
Still do.
private resident that would, but don't they, I heard somewhat that they tend to get lost over the years and
They're
things
not
of that
lost. We've
sort.
done the inventory, we know
Okay.
where they are, we know who they are,
Okay.
and we've
great.
actually updated a couple.
And does
of them.
this stay affordable forever, or does that
Yes.
run out after so many years?
Only way it can turn non-affordable is if there's something in the deed, there's some things in the deed right there, the town has the right of first refusal, here we go, to purchase the property back and take it back and resell it. So, no, there's no real issues
Okay.
there. It's pretty specific about what you can and cannot do, and you can only sell it for the maximum resale price based on income. Our income range is, I think we use the Lawrence district, which
But I mean, the
includes all-
person that buys it is entitled to, as prices go up, to recoup some of the value.
Right, but
like,
it's
yeah.
based on what the next person can afford too.
Oh,
But
really?
they can't sell it for less than what they paid for it.
Yeah, okay.
But you can't. There's no real inflationary factor
Oh,
there.
okay, okay.
Based on interest rates, based on median income, there's a whole bunch of factors. Paul Nelson is the expert on that calculation. He's got a spreadsheet, like, you know. goes
And
like
if
that.
you wanna make improvements to the property, you have to get permission from the Affordable Housing Trust as well, because we don't want them making improvements that aren't going to be consistent with the deed writer, nor having them make improvements that they don't realize they're not gonna be able to recoup if they make some wrong decisions out there as well.
For me, let me make a statement that, and the unfortunate part is, well, no, maybe it's the fortunate part. The fortunate part is that looking at what's down here, as far as Georgetown's concerned, they're all gonna be affordable. It's only two of them. It's only two of them that help us out with the state.
Right.
But, you know, and that's where I think the state is just wrong in how they figure all that stuff.
Understood. Agreed.
It is.
Yeah, agreed.
So, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay then, all those in favor of the motion with the language change in the aforementioned document, say aye?
Aye.
Alright,
Aye.
Aye, all right. Good, Dave, I'm glad you brought that back up. Okay. All right, let's go through the town warrants here for a second, because I want to get, Sandy, I want to get you out of here, because you're going to so many meetings as well. We'll go talk about Elm Street, I guess, since it's part of it. I'm just gonna jump to that particular warrant article.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, for the record,
For the record, Sandy Garrity, 42 Elm Street. I'm here as a resident of Elm Street, and for full disclosure, I'm also on the Finance and Advisory Board, and I had a conversation earlier with Selectman Dawes today, just so everyone's on the same page. Being someone who's involved in town, it really just recently came to my attention that the Elm Street project going on the ballot for a vote is in jeopardy of not going on the ballot at this point in time, and that's my concern I bring to you. And I've come to the realization that, and some neighbors are here behind, in reaching out to them this afternoon, that they also were unaware that there's a potential it may not go to the ballot for funding. Just to regroup, in 2012, there was the warrant articles that were on the town meeting for the school, Pembroke School, and that was to go to a vote, a ballot vote. But there was also an article on that warrant, that town meeting warrant, for appropriation for the 1.8 million, and the town voted to appropriate, not to appropriate, but to authorize the spending. And in the meantime, since that time, we've been trying to find if there's grant funds and things like that, and TIFs. And as Pam said earlier, this is one of the things with a small town, and because the state thinks that we are a little bit more affluent, we're not eligible for a lot of grants in this town, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. So as a result, there is no money within the budget to go up to the levy limit to pay for the $1.8 million. So it needs to go to the ballot for a vote for debt exclusion. It is not an override. It is a debt exclusion, meaning that would go on for so many years to pay off the debt, and then it would be done. It would be off the books. An override goes permanently on the tax roll. So I come to you tonight because my concern is we have a board that's 4 people, and the vote would be 2-2. And if that was the case, if that's what I'm hearing is correctly from hearing different things, that would not put it on the ballot. So my big concern is that the townspeople voted in 2012, a town meeting, that yes, we wanted to spend the money. Okay, now we just have to come up with a funding mechanism. And if it doesn't go on the ballot, that takes that ability for the townspeople to vote for that funding mechanism away. Now, granted, that is within your right as a Board of Selectmen to do that, but that doesn't go with the spirit of what the folks have said. Now, had we had realized, and as I look at the Georgetown record, and it does express Mr. Dawes' concern about doing this now, I think that if we had had any, if I had, and I'm sure if any of my neighbors on Elm Street had any indication that this was a potential problem and Elm Street was not going to get fixed, you probably would have heard from a lot more of us and a lot earlier. So we are running down on timeline. We are very close. Those of us who live on Elm Street, we've put up with years of construction trucks going up and down our road. I think a lot of people voted for the school knowing that Elm Street was going to get fixed at the same time. The school only won by 180 votes. When you think about it, that's not a lot. And I do know myself and probably about 2/3 of the street of Elm Street may not have voted for the school if Elm Street wasn't going to get fixed, because about 2/3 of the people who live on Elm Street don't have children in the school system. So I ask you as a board, you know, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, is this something that you really do believe that you would take away from the voters? And Mr. Dawes and I did have this discussion. Please interrupt me if I'm speaking anything that's out of what other you and I talked about today. That to take this away from the voters, to take it, put it on the ballot and take it away from the voters to vote for the funding.
Well, so we did speak about this, I think, 2 meetings ago, and I'm not going to speak for others, but I think everyone understands that I'm advocating to get this done now for a number of reasons. One, it's not just a road repair issue that I see over there. There's 2 major issues. One, it's a safety issue. Those sidewalks run right up to the school, and and they're below grade. The below grade of the roadway in many areas. There's no curbing. There's no buffer in some of those areas. That's the first issue. The second, there's a traffic issue down there as well that has been brought on by adding more grades to the schools, so we've got more traffic there. And there's the comments that people have that say nobody walks to school. I can tell you as a parent, I wouldn't let my kids walk on Elm Street. I think it's just a real unsafe way. There's another financial reasons that I would advocate to at least give the town the option to vote on this. One, as Sandy, as you said, you know, part of you know, the reasons I voted and supported and tried to drive a lot of support was because we would make Elm Street a safer road as well. The second is, if we go out to bond this year versus another year, we're looking at increased rates of interest rates of the bonds, and you're looking at increased labor costs. So you just add 3% of increased labor costs and another 1% in terms of a 20-year bond. It's a pretty significant difference. And we're talking not just pennies, we're talking a couple $100,000.
You're probably talking more than that, because right now in the industry, as we just did a survey, that they're looking at 15 to 25% more cost in construction year to year.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
So Mike shared some numbers with me, and it would add a 0.15 per thousand to home valuations, which for a $400,000 house would be a $60 annual increase in taxes on their current tax bill, or whatever that current tax bill will be for FY17. And for a $600,000 house, it would be a $90 value. I personally don't think we should not give the opportunity for the voters, whether I support it or not. I support putting it on the ballot. I mean, it's up to them. I think a lot of folks, as you said, have voted for it, but there's my opinion out there. I'd love to hear from you guys as well.
From what I understand, we have bonds that are falling off, right, Mike?
Yes.
Just review that real quick.
Yeah, we have a debt excluded school refunding bond. Our last payment of $251,615 is due in 2018.
So when would the first payment be due on the, because we would do anticipation bonds and then roll it in, right?
Right, and I have I gave the board these debt schedules once before, but I've printed them up again.
The principal on that was a lot higher than 1.7 million, right? If it was,
No, it was 1.8 million.
was it? Okay.
Yep. And option number 1, the top page there, 15-year, originally, we were working under the assumption that road bonds were only 10 years. Well, now the debt schedule has changed and we can bond it for 15 years.
Not 20 as we
I
thought?
thought you said it was 20.
No, I think he thought it was 10 originally.
No,
Yeah.
it was 10 originally, and then I thought that you had mentioned that the state now allows you to bond for 20.
If I said that, I was wrong. It's 15.
So they moved
We'll
it
just
to
take a
50.
step back for 1 minute.
But what this shows you, we take a ban for 1 year, a bond anticipation note, and just spend, in 2018, we'd spend $18,000. And then the first principal payment wouldn't be due until 2019. So we would only incur a small payment before the $251,000 payment falls off.
Mike, can you go back to that bond that's fallen off? It's $241,000 annual expense?
251.
Right, so the original principal that we borrowed there, what was that?
Let's see if I have that. I'm not even sure.
Because what I'm trying to get at is if an original bond of, and to me, it sounds like it's around $2 million, so a little higher. 2.2, maybe even a little higher than that. I don't know what was the rate? And how long, what was the term?
I don't have.
Sounds like to me
I
it's
don't
higher
have
than
either
one
of
point.
those.
It's
David.
higher than $1.8 million is what I'm trying to get at. So-
Oh, yeah, it's a lot higher.
Right, so if the original principal,
It was a 20-year bond.
20-year bond with 250, so you're talking, a lot more money.
It was-
Million.
Yeah.
So about 4 million. So 4 million essentially is coming off the debt roll, and 1.8 is going on at much lower interest rate spread over 15 years versus 10. I know you said it was 20, right? So my point was that, you're going from a much larger number of borrowing down to, granted, if you don't do it, it's zero. I do admit that, but at 1.8, it's probably less than half of what the original principal was on that other note. I'd like to, if you.
Yeah.
All right. Just
For one, we don't know what the cost is gonna be because it's not gone out to bid. The estimate 4 years ago was 1.8 million. We only have guesstimates now that it still be 1.8 million.
They built
It's
that-
just, it's not concrete, and this board, or whomever, has had 4 years to figure a way to fund this project, other than just taking the easy way and having a debt exclusion and raise taxes. My whole premise with Sandy and I talked with was that these bonds are dropping off, and I don't have any issue with redoing Elm Street at all. It's just a matter of, I don't want it to negatively impact the taxpayers of the community that feel like they're being, beat to death with taxes. That's the only thing. I've talked with many people, 40 to 50, to be honest, all ages, from younger, homeowners and taxpayers to older ones and people with kids and people without kids. And today, as I said to you, you have been the only one that has said that you were in favor of doing a debt exclusion right now. And then
Yeah.
one other gentleman who was kind of non-committal, I took his as saying that he was in favor of that, because he didn't say no, but he didn't say yes either. But there's only been 2 people right now. I see that you have neighbors, and I'm not taking away the importance of doing Elm Street. Elm Street needs to be done. But the previous boards and committees or whatever have had 4 years to try to find funding, and they haven't done it. And now all of a sudden it magically appears on as a question 1 on this warrant. And I don't know,
Well, as I
we haven't even discussed it. When I first came on the board, we mentioned one thing. I said, you guys don't even know where you're getting $1.8 million.
So let me just comment to that. So one, I've had this in the back of my mind, and I've been on top of this for the last 2 years. And we've brought this up over several years, since 2012 when it was passed. And the intent was to hopefully find the monies available to pay for that. I agree with that. And if you're saying, and you're implying that we have basically said, let's throw money away somewhere else as opposed to Elm Street.
Don't put those words in
Well,
my mouth.
you've
I
said
didn't say that.
we've had 4 years to find a funding source.
Well,
We
you
have
have.
looked at grants over the last several years. We've looked at, I mean, where else do we look? Where else would you look for this? Because we don't have it in the operating budget. Our free cash has been consumed over the last year and a half, especially with the snow. Our free cash this year is consumed in paying the operating expenses. So I just take
All
offense
right,
that we
well-
haven't been able to find money for this. There is
Well,
no money to be found out there.
Don't be so sensitive.
Gotcha.
We have bonds dropping off the rolls.
Yes.
It would not have a negative impact on the taxpayer to go forward in 2019, fiscal year 2019. All right?
But
15
that's,
cents.
excuse me, it'll go forward in 2019 if it gets on the warrant this year. If it doesn't go on the ballot this year, you're putting out another year. That's a
Right.
funding mechanism.
All right.
So that was my
So
point on
that's-
the timing.
yeah, the
That's what I want to
timeline.
get back to. If we,
It doesn't take 2 years to.
Oh, yeah, it does. That's the point.
that's
That's
the
the
point. Well,
time.
I think the only additional expense would be the anticipation bonds, the interest on the anticipation bonds. You're talking about $18,000 in a, $27 million budget. Because once those bonds fall off the roll, you're not gonna see an increase in your tax bill, it's just gonna
Right.
stay level. So why not give the taxpayers basically what they'd be voting on is $18,000 spread out over time, over the town's budget. I mean, you're talking probably about, I don't know, how many homes are in town if it was equal? What are you talking about?
3,200
I get-
homes.
Well, that-
Yeah, 3,200 homes divided by 18,000.
That's not the-
Again, for the timing aspect of this, that would hedge the risk of things going up, right? Gas prices going up, interest rates certainly are gonna go up, right? I mean, they're already starting to creep a little bit now. So, I don't know, I mean, to me, the timing is right. If we want, by putting it on the ballot, and if it does pass this year, we won't see the first funding payment till 2019 when everything else falls off.
Right.
So it works. Timing wise, I'm not,
No, according to Phil, Mike has provided information saying that it would impact the tax rate by 15 cents. So we can play insurance salesman and bring it down to the least dollar amount to make it look, all right? But even so, you have people out there, you guys say, what if? I say, what about? What about those people that are on fixed pensions or fixed social security or fixed VA benefits or disability that don't have the money? What about all the taxpayers in the community right now that are paying partial payments for their taxes? All right? What about, what about the people? And like I said, Sandy said there was 180 votes. I wasn't for that particular choice for a school. I was for doing something, not that particular choice. But as soon as the town voted, and you had 80% of the voters came out and said, fine, well, I was fine with it. I don't want to see the town negatively impacted. Now, Mike is already indicating that there'll be an increase in taxes for it.
no, but I don't want to, not to really interrupt, but not really.
No, I'm
Well,
not
it's
saying
the
that.
15 cents.
It's fine. I
That's
just did this
if-
really quick. Back
if
of the
we-
envelope. Hear me out for 1 second. Back of the envelope. If we put it on the ballot and the people approve it, for 1 year, you will, again, based on what size your house is, on average, you're seeing for that 1 year, $5.63. And somebody but again,
You can play that game. That's
no, I'm talking for the whole year, Doug.
I
It's
understand.
$18,000
Per-
divided
you
by
go
3,200
by
houses.
whatever, 32
Mine will probably
houses.
be $15.
Yeah.
Everybody else will
I'm
be
just-
$3.50.
You know what?
$3.10. It depends. I
You
mean,
know what?
but wait, hear me out. Right, that 18,000, we're running the risk that the project will escalate if we wait any longer, which would cost us a lot more than the 18,000
You know what?
if it ever gets
You
approved.
ran the risk for 4 years
I understand.
that it would escalate.
And we actually
And
won.
we don't know.
Because we actually
Well, no, you
won
don't know.
because
You don't
gas
know that.
prices and oil went down
Well, gas and
significantly.
oil went down, but you don't know what the cost of, we just can make a guesstimate is all.
Well,
Best,
I believe-
best case
No,
guess.
Peter-
I believe the
Turkey
one
did
point eight,
this.
the 1.8 million was also done with an escalation clause
Yeah.
done way back when.
Peter did
by-
all that.
Yeah, that was already done. That wasn't 1.8 if it was gonna happen the next year. That was 1.8 being done at the end of the completion of the school
Yeah.
project, because this project could never have even thought to be completed until those fields are done, because the truck's rolling up and down the road. You don't wanna do that. But to your point though, Doug, is that, yes, you spoke with 40, 50 people in town. I think I'll speak for myself, and I know I can speak for a couple people that I heard from today that live on Elm Street that couldn't make it here. I think if we on Elm Street had any indication prior to now that this was a potential problem, I think you'd be hearing from a lot more than 40, 50 people. I think this room would have been packed with people from Elm Street and possibly from
Oh,
elsewhere around town.
Possibly.
Yeah,
but
so I guess that's,
we can't make predictions. I'm sure
Right.
it would be, but I don't, we
so,
don't know.
so my question is to you is,
'Cause I
why
tried
not
to-
put it to the voters? Why do you as a board feel that you have the right to take that vote away from the
Nobody's
voters?
taking anything away
But if
from
you don't put it in
anybody.
if you don't put it on the ballot,
Well, you're saying taking it away as if it would never
no,
come
take,
back.
no, I'm saying take it away.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying wait until these stuff drops off.
But the-
so it doesn't negatively impact the community.
Well, first off, it's not gonna negatively impact the community. That's not gonna happen. That's a black and white number. It's not gonna financially impact the community. It's actually gonna be less. However, we also, because of the way this is happening, I don't think a lot of people, especially on Elm Street, had any idea that this was a potential problem. Until I brought it up, and you can ask the folks here in the back. I mean, they came. I mean, did they have any clue that this was not gonna go on the ballot?
So
Probably
I
not,
can
because
tell you
the
that
board
I have
hasn't
spoken.
discussed it.
I have spoken to many people out there, and they were surprised that we were even considering it. And to be honest with you, I was surprised that we weren't even considering it. I know that many, there are different opinions on whether they support it or not, but I was surprised to hear that I had board members here, and you're welcome to your own decisions here, that they would consider not allowing the town to vote on something that they wanted to vote to have done. And I have spoken, and I have seen the hundreds of Facebook posts from many neighbors on Elm Street and other peers who are adamantly for trying to get this project done. Yes, there are a few people who are not happy that we're going to have to go out and bond this, but overwhelmingly everyone I talk to is.
I'm not happy we have to bond it. However,
Yep.
And then next year, when there's an override that gets proposed, and then next year after that, when there's another override that's
but
come on.
that's
That's
next
the
year.
easy way out. We should
But-
be looking for ways to reduce that,
Right,
not
but
increase it.
But Doug, respectfully, that's next year. 4 years ago, the townspeople voted that they wanted to take care of Elm Street. It's only gonna get more expensive. This is the time now. It's only gonna get more expensive. And quite honestly, I'd rather have a 1.8 on the tax roll for my taxes than having a 2.5. Because that is gonna cost me more money.
See, I look at this as a business decision, right? I look at it as a business decision. It's an $18,000 hedge against interest rates and the price going up. Putting aside the feelings of who's for it and who's not for it, looking at it on paper as a business decision, it's a no-brainer. If you're gonna do the project, right?
Yep.
If you're gonna do this project, it's a no-brainer. You're talking about risking $18,000 in 1 year to save interest rate risk over the next 19 years. I mean, I'm sorry, 14 years. So to me, that could cost you a lot more money. Interest rates go up 50 basis points on that money spread over 14 years. It's gonna be a lot more money than $18,000. So for me, let the people decide. If the people don't want to do it, we don't do it. But
If the people vote at the ballot box, they don't wanna do it, then that's their vote. They voice their opinion.
just like any future override or any future debt exclusion or any future, they're all based on the merits that the people have in front of them. But from a business perspective and an interest rate risk perspective and cost and price going up, and I do remember Peter coming in and saying that this, he had solid numbers from, wasn't anything he just made up.
No.
I go dig it out. He actually did the pricing with a professional. So it wasn't that we just picked out 1.8 million. So that's a solid number. That should be good. If it isn't, then we don't go forward with the project, period.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Gary, before
We can't- We can't start a project if we don't have the proper
Before
amount.
I ask the public for any comments or questions.
Well, yeah, I remember the issue well, and I would somewhat disagree that the people voted for it. It was presented as a project that was going to be done within budget. And The vote was to allow the Board of Selectmen to bond 1.8 million. And I believe it was well known that night that was within budget. Now, I make just about every finance meeting during finance season. I brought it up here at Board of Selectmen meetings, and I brought it up there every year, that we need to be considering how are we going to fund Elm Street going forward. And as you know, I think it was 2 years ago, that we hired several new employees. And I advocated against that, thinking that that's some money that could possibly go towards Elm Street or go towards capital. I have thought that Elm Street could be possibly worked into having a better capital position going forward in town, that perhaps we could do it there. We've got some money falling off that I think even isn't debt excluded. And if we started looking at that and funding a capital line item, we could have probably done this under capital. And I can remember, Sandy, one night when I said at finance, I said, how are we gonna pay you for it? And your answer to me was, we'll go to the people and tell them we need more money. And I am totally against that.
I don't know if I said that, and
Well,
don't quote me on that, Gary, because
okay.
you.
Well,
you
that
can't
was
quote
the
me.
answer, that was the answer that I got. And,
And
you know, no, let me finish,
Okay.
I have the floor, please,
Yep.
you can reply to it afterwards. I didn't wanna vote, I voted against going forward with putting the project out, the engineering, which was over $200,000. And I said, you're putting the cart before the horse. Let's find out how are we going to fund this within budget. But that got ignored and it went forward, and now it's been fought. So now here we are. I personally say, let's keep looking for ways within our budget to fund this. We may, Mike had a proposal in front of us to come up with a 5-year plan. Last meeting, that's not here tonight. I talked to Mike about that. But, you know, I think I've advocated for the Board of Selectmen and Finance to get together and have more meetings. That was in the Department of Revenue thing that we had done back in, I think, 2013, was it? It stated that we should, as boards, be looking at this going forward. We don't. We had a meeting recently, because the school committee requested having a tri-board meeting, we had that, and I had hopes there that we'd talk about capital, because, like I say, I advocate every year to try to, let's meet more with finance as this board to help figuring out a plan for Georgetown, and I'm sorry, it doesn't happen. Now, here's a line of funding, okay, for grants, a grant project. I think it seems to have two different names here, so, but it's an email from Sharon Freeman about a thing, she calls it Complete Streets. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, nobody in Georgetown seemed to want to pick up on this except Chief Cudmore. Okay, this was a thing that you had to be attended by someone to get a foot in the door. Chief Cudmore sent an officer to this thing at I think it was at NECO, back on 2/1 of this year. So the foot is in the door. Now this is a grant that possibly could get up to $400,000, and I think that this might be a well-fitting grant for Elm Street. And Sharon here, who states that she'd be happy to try to work and try to pull things together for this. I've told Mike I'd be happy to try to start going to these if you need a body to fill. I obviously can't write the grant now, but if we need bodies to get there to keep this thing moving, I'd be willing to it. And I talked to this with Mike, I think 2 weeks ago, and you're gonna look for the date, but I haven't gotten an answer. So there are things, and I think that is the way that we need to be going, rather than just telling the people we need more money for Elm Street.
Just to your point, Phil, if I can rebut on that, Complete Streets, to my understanding, is it is not just a matter of a grant, but it's also doing a lot of other things to it. And I don't know last time you drove down Elm Street, Gary, but a lot of our houses are very close to the road. And part of the Complete Streets program is also taking some property by eminent domain. I got maybe about 6 to 8 feet to the road. I'm not really in favor of my front yard being taken for a grant program. I'd rather pay money out of my taxes for that. Okay, so everything that comes there with grants that come from the state on things like this, there's a cost, and the cost is usually to the taxpayers that street is involved in. Okay, that's one thing. Now, to your point of that
When we first started this project, okay, we talked about grants. When
Yeah,
Peter
that just
first
came out in the-
started-
that
when
just
Peter
came out in the
first
past couple of
presented
years.
this to us, it was, oh, I think we can get a matching, we can get grants from the
There-
state to do them.
Right,
So
and-
we always were with the
Mhm.
idea of getting grants. Now, the grants, as far as I know, they don't come from the next town over. They only come from the state or possibly the federal government.
Right.
So Elm Street was always moving forward with possibly looking at grants.
And
So
Peter
don't-
has.
Please don't correct me on the grants.
The grant is available. Yes, it's available.
So what
but
you're
there-
saying though is we shouldn't be looking at
No,
grants.
I'm not
because they'll
saying
take
it.
your
I'm not
land.
saying go ahead and look at it, but I think you're going to get some pushback from your constituents. You have a grant that comes through that you're going to take their front row,
I'm probably
their
gonna
front
get
ones.
pushback from constituents because
Okay.
I have no intention of putting my name on a debt exclusion. this
So,
year.
Can
and
I
I
ask
just
a
want to make
question?
one other point to Gary. Okay, the townspeople voted back in 2012. You're right. The thought was we were going to get grants. The thought we were going to go do in the budget. Okay, it didn't happen. I guess in hindsight, we could have sat there and said, okay, to your point of doing the funding, well, why didn't we as a community sit there and say, Peter, why not take all the Chapter 90 money and just put it aside for Elm Street and not do any other roadway projects? Why not put all the other capital funding aside and just keep putting money away for 1.8 million? And I suppose we could have come up with that funding within the budget, but to what loss of a lot of other projects? All I'm asking you as a Board of Selectmen is put it on the ballot and let the people vote whether they want to fund it out of the tax rate on a debt exclusion or not. People voted for it. Now that is the ultimate vote, as opposed to 4 people taking a vote. You're letting all the people who have a vote in this town to go to the ballots and make that vote.
So my question is, what's the fear? What's the fear if it goes on the ballot? You fear that it's gonna pass? What's the fear?
Don't
If,
to me, I don't
if
know.
so many people are against it, it's not gonna pass. It's a dead, we're arguing about a dead issue. If it's 50-2, Doug, then it's 50-2. I mean, what's so wrong with letting the people decide? If the people if you say there's that much, negative press, or people don't want to do it, it's going to show at the ballot box. It's the big deal. That's how I look at it. That's just my 2 cents.
Can I speak to that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Gary.
As Sandy said earlier, something about there was I think it was a school project, you said, Sandy, was 180 vote difference.
That was the
Okay.
vote for on 2012 for the school, Pembroke School.
Yes. And I had stated at a meeting before, matter of fact, it may have been for the last time we put the debt exclusion on for the school, and I had spoke. I remember it well. We were at the meeting room in the high school, and I'd said that my problem is that too many votes are too close. 180 votes, you would agree, is a close vote. It's not an overwhelming when it's split by that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like a board that could work better towards getting a town that could support a project such as that by, let's say, 80%. And I got told, and by this man here, that I was a dreamer. And I'd like to be a dreamer. I dream of a board that could perhaps present things to town when it comes to an override, that we don't just say, let's let the people decide, that we as a board are presenting something that we can all be together on, and we could feel that we could get the town to support it overwhelmingly. I don't think that we've done due diligence to put this on and to get the town to vote on this overwhelmingly. And so I think therefore that to say, let the people decide, I think that's wrong for me as an elected official. I think what they've elected me to do is to come forward with projects that the town could get behind and support, instead of being split 49-51, or in that type of a margin. So that's what I dream of. And I don't see this fitting that dream, so I'm more than willing not to put my signature on this
But
year.
and just now I'm going to shut up. But you got to go. But Gary, you got to go to the polls and make your vote. That's the point. You got to go to the polls and make your vote. The Board of Selectmen at that point in time didn't take that away from you. You got to go to the polls and cast a ballot. That's the point I'm trying to make, is to allow the townspeople to put this on the ballot and allow the townspeople to cast their vote.
Okay, we have some folks in the audience. Is there anyone out there that would like to make any public comments? Go ahead, just state your name and address for the record.
Christian Anderson, 32 Elm Street.
How you doing, Christian?
Good, thank you.
Come on up, have a seat. I just want to point out the safety issues that are imminent right now. You know, we all talk about the budgets and how we're gonna make this done, okay? By the way, Mr. Surface is a very qualified person. I believe you're in banking. And you're saying this is a no-brainer. Phil, you wouldn't let your kids go walk down Elm Street?
No way.
Rightly so, okay. I live on the corner of Elm and Chestnut. There's about 100 feet between 44 Elm and going up towards Honeydew Donuts. The sidewalks are crumbling, they slope off. There's about a 10 or 12 foot drop right there. I've seen kids walking home from school, playing around, horsing around, fall down that slope. Okay. The storm drain in front of my house shook so badly that my wall started to crack in my house. And I called the town hall, the public works, they've came and fixed it, patched it, there's not much they could do. The crosswalks in front of our house, nobody can see. Nobody stops for the children. They go by probably 50 miles an hour, don't pay any attention. And I'm sure that's the same way down the other Elm Street too. Somebody else here can talk about that. So, it was voted in. You spoke so eloquently about the state stepping up to do the right thing. Well, I think it's time for you to step up to do the right thing, Doug. You had 4 years to figure it out and it hasn't.
I've had 1 year.
4 years, right?
Well, this board has had 4 years.
And you're saying there's no other alternative?
Well, I mean, I'll say never. There's probably there may be an alternative out there. I think that if I can't speak on the fact that whether the grants that are out there are a good fit for us or not. I know we've looked at grants in the past and found out that they weren't a good fit. I remember we applied and we didn't get some. I think it was the Safe Streets or something like that. I'm not a grant expert, so I can't say.
So I'll just take
from a revenue standpoint.
what
I
I'm
can tell you,
hearing,
we
though-
don't have an alternative option with any of our cash in our budgets.
Okay, so I'm hearing that buy us more time, maybe we'll figure it out, but I think the safety issue is imminent right now. I mean, I see it. I live on Elm Street, I work out of my house, I see the kids walking by. And by the way, that they're exponentially greater this year than in the past years, because you've combined all of that.
I agree.
The traffic is ridiculous coming down Elm Street. It's just patched, it's potholed, it's sunk in. I mean, my house is cracking. I own one of the great old homes on Elm Street, which is supposed to be our little historic district and a great little street. And, I have to go around patching now cracks, visible cracks, because my house shakes off its foundation when these trucks go by. So, I mean, you can push it off for another 3 or 4 years or however long you want to do it. But the safety part of it is now. And I know you care about the kids, Doug. I saw you on Veterans Day donate your time to come to the school and speak to the children. So, I mean, I know you care about them, and that's what we care about, ultimately. We see the buses trying to pull over to make these cars go by, and people are passing each other because if they're not going into the school, they're going around people. It's ridiculous. It's time to fix it now. I mean, the school's online. You have all those grades there. You had your time to figure it out. Now the town has to figure it
I
out.
agree with you.
Okay.
We have
Then you
time.
need to do the right thing, as
Well, it's
Mr.
not-
Dawes stated earlier.
It's never been an issue of doing the project.
But
The issue, that project, I don't
Sandy's
see.
correct, though. Nobody's been given any notice to that this is gonna be the case tonight.
Listen, Chris, this question 1 appeared magically on this. I don't know where it came from, who put it there, who authorized it, I have no idea. And the only time we ever, it was when it first came out, oh, well, how'd this get there? And it's been skirted, or talked about briefly, with no real discussion.
But I listened to Mr. Surface, okay, who's very highly qualified in financing, probably more than all of us put together, okay, saying that it's a no-brainer, things are gonna fall off, why not put it to the people? The people will speak. We
Listen,
gotta have trust that the
I
people
try
are
not
gonna
to-
make the right decision.
I try not to
Okay.
give my opinion on previous boards. However, going back 4 years, that was presented as part and parcel, part of that project. And MSBA flatly denied any funding for Elm Street as part of the funding for the school. They allowed the access road, but it got sold as part and parcel of the project, and it wasn't, and it was just.
I never heard that at all. As a matter of fact,
I-
it was very clear, because we were hoping that the MSBA would pay for some of that. The only thing that they said they would pay for is the entrance.
Yeah, the entrance.
And that
Well,
was
right, the access
completely,
road up there, right?
no, not
Oh, just the entrance
not
road.
even the access road.
the connector
If you understood it that way, that's terrible to hear that, because it was very clear that this was going to have to go out further, and we'd have to pay for it through other means.
Well, I'd have to look it up, even, well.
Yeah.
I
don't
I
wanna
think there was
badmouth the
questions right
Georgetown
up
records, but
until
that's what they
the vote
reported.
as to how we were going to be able to put Elm Street on there as a project, and we found out at the very last minute, before that went on for the override, that no, we could not. So I think, to what Doug said, there was some thought that this was going to be able to be funded within that, and then we found out at the last minute that no, it could not. And then it was the next year that it went on with the, allowing the selectmen to, borrow.
No, on 2012,
Oh,
the same town meeting, there were two separate votes. One was for Elm Street, which is a completely separate authorization, and one was for the schools.
And it may have gone on there at the last minute, because we found out at the last minute that Elm Street could
No,
not.
but
I don't
it-
remember that.
No,
That happened.
that isn't what happened, but.
See, my fear is, right, again, putting that interest rates going up and costs going up and all that aside, that if we put this aside now, you know, I think we found the money. That's how I look at it. I think we found the money. We've been looking for a way to do this, and now we have it in front of us. If we don't, something else is gonna come up, and we're gonna find a way to put this off again and use that money that's falling off for something else.
Now, I can't speak, I'm not speaking for the FinCom, but being on the board in a public meetings, we have been speaking about this for months, about being a debt exclusion. That has not been a secret, that has been in our public meetings, that there hasn't been any funding, and it was going to have to go forward if we were gonna do it as a debt exclusion. That has been there for a few months, out there.
So I like I say, I think we found the money. Now it's time to let the people decide if that's what they want to do, or they want to let it, you know, just put it off, and that money you basically get a little rebate in your taxes. I guess, right? Would be the whatever money we're spending on the current bond would go back into, you know, would reduce people's taxes,
Yeah.
right, Mike? Am I saying that right? Would be a reduction because you're not collecting it anymore.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just ironic. We have, again, Phil, he won't even let his family go down Elm Street. I see young families with little children, 2 years old, 3 years old, riding their bicycles, I mean, on the sidewalks in Elm Street. It's decrepit. I don't see any of you walk down Elm Street, so so I don't think you really know what's going on down there unless you really take a
I
walk
drive
down
down
there.
Elm Street all the
Do you
time.
walk
and
the
when I
sidewalks?
look at it, and there are areas of the sidewalk that I believe could be repaired, you know, in the interim.
It's
And-
antiquated. Now you have a brand new school with more children.
I
It's
understand.
gotta get fixed.
Don't bring the school into it. We're not
It's-
talking about anything to do with the school.
Well,
We're
no,
talking-
it's an
we're-
implication of
we're
the
talking-
extra traffic
I
because of the
understand that.
school.
Well,
The children
I-
walking.
Right.
Again, putting it off 1 year.
It's
right?
crazy.
If we do it this year, if we put it off 1 year, we're saving $18,000. That's how I look at it. If we put this off, we say we're not going to allow the voters to decide, and we're going to do it next year. All we're saving is $18,000. Doug, you just said maybe we can do an interim fix. That may cost us more than the $18,000 we're risking. That's why, again, I think we found the money. I think it's a solid plan. We found the money. It's going to cost us $18,000 to hedge against interest rates going up for the next 14 years of this bond, which could cost us significant amount of money.
Just 1 second. I know you've been patient. Go ahead. Thanks,
Thank you.
Christian. Appreciate it. Thanks. If you
Tom
would-
Moore,
Great.
95 Elm Street.
Thanks, Tom.
I've watched this project go on for a while because I was on conservation for a little while. So, I mean, it was very clear that this project was, well-intentioned about going forward. I just find it disturbing that, we're not going to allow people to vote on this. I mean, I think you're saying your job is to, you're almost saying your job is to impede a vote by saying that, we don't know enough whether it's a good project or not. And a project that wins by 180 votes wins. That's
And
democracy.
I don't see that as a winner.
It's called democracy, and that's also voting on a school, not a road. 1.8 million is a big difference from $38 million school. So, I mean, a project like this, 95 Elm Street, the road in front of me, it's ridiculous. I mean, I had to call the police to get signs put up because it was so dangerous. People are parking there, kids are walking in the street off of the sidewalk. The sidewalk's a mess. It's below grade. We have major flooding. So you want to kick the can down the road. What's the cost compared to $18,000? I'm still talking. Hold on. You put this off, you kick the can down the road. Everyone knows interest rates are going up. The Fed is voting on it. That's going to go up. Oil's about as low as it's ever going to get. That's going to go up. Labor is going to go up. Okay? Everything's going to go up. So you kick the can down the road. We're going to have to do this sometime. You've been on this commission, for more than 4 years. Have you even looked at a grant? Why haven't you looked at it up until this point? And why would you stop a vote from being
You
made?
put the question right to me.
Well,
I got one here that I said I'd love to go. I'd be
Go
willing to
for it.
attend meetings.
Do it,
okay?
in tandem.
But I need somebody to look it up for me and tell me when these are. Okay?
do it in
And we
tandem.
have-
Do
we
it
have
in
people
tandem.
that do that,
No
okay?
one's going to
But
stop you
listen,
from looking this stuff up. No one's going to stop you from looking it
That's-
up. You're saying you can't do your job, you're just going to sit in your hands?
Am I gonna be allowed to respond, or do you
Absolutely.
wanna continue to try to speak over me? You asked me a question, I'd like to respond now.
Respond.
Okay, I've done also some homework on this, as the rest of the board knows. I try to follow, I don't just say, nope. I've spoken with our chief of police at some length as to his opinion on Elm Street, do you think that this is unsafe? And I don't think he's gonna mind me saying this, he's told me, no, I don't see that big of a problem there. We've got sidewalks on Elm Street, we have many more towns,
If you wanna call them
we have many more streets in town that don't have sidewalks. And Chief Cudmore actually spoke at, I don't know if it was our meeting or finance, I think it was at the finance meeting, and he even asked, he said, listen, what's the story with Elm Street? Why do we feel we need to do Elm Street right now? It's not that unsafe. So please don't put the safety issue to me, because I have followed that up with, as I hear sometimes, our professionals. And you can say that 180 votes is a winner. But when you live in a town, I don't see that as a winner. I see when you can present the project to a town and it can win overwhelmingly, I see that as a winner for all. I see 180 votes as a winner for, we got 8,000 people in town, for 4,500 people, and a loser for the other 3,500 people perhaps, for the elderly. There's many elderly. You've never perhaps had an elderly person come to you and say, Mr. Fowler, thank you for standing up for me. And then later find out that that person had to sell their house and move out of town because they couldn't afford to live here anymore. I also feel for those people. So I would much rather present a project that I can get behind. I can't get behind this as presented and just say, let the people decide. I don't think that's what I was elected to do. So thank you.
That's called the democracy. You vote on projects.
Democracy was also electing selectmen, and I got elected, and
So you're actually trying to prevent a vote.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm doing my
Tom,
job.
thank you.
May I add one thing, Phil? Because it should know that I did speak with Jim Lacy today about this, and I agreed with that. We left that conversation with, if we could find a way that something wouldn't impact the taxpayer, negatively impact the taxpayer, would I be willing to go along with that? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And he suggested the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom meet, I think, 30th, what's that, Wednesday,
Yep.
to discuss that further. I don't have an issue with the project being done. I don't want a negative impact on the taxpayers of this community. Now, I understand what Gary's saying as far as a win, right? I looked at it as, well, you know what? The people, 80% of the electorate came out roughly, and 180 more people voted for that particular option. Well, fine, okay, fine. I didn't like that, but fine. I was fine with it. People, had 80% electorate out there. That was fine with me. I don't have an issue with that. My only issue is that I don't want here's how I view the position of selectmen, or any elected position really, and maybe even when people are appointed to boards. You've been appointed or elected, you were on conservation, right? You've been appointed or elected into a leadership position, and we should be able to survey the landscape, okay? We come into a budget year that we started out 600,000 in the hole, okay? And now so I look at this and I say, I don't think this is prudent for this particular year. And we have these, Mike, I think there's bonds falling off in next year?
Yeah,
2018.
that's what I wanted to,
No, for 2017.
yes.
There's like a $50,000 bond for the library or something?
Total of 61,675, which would
Well, that was
more
my-
than take up
From
the
an
18.
operational perspective, could we,
18,000.
without impacting the voters, can we talk about this for a second? Without impacting the voters, it's an $18,000 impact. Is there a way, Mike, to take and use from our operating budget $18,000 to pay for the interest without having to spread that $5.62
Whatever it is.
across 3,200 houses?
Yeah, because we'd have
So there you
an
go.
additional
We could-
$61,000.
If the people approve it, it's up to us to figure out the funding, right?
Yes.
So we could take that $18,000 from the budget, even if we had free cash in that year, take that $18,000 to pay for the effect of the bond in 2018.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have to
Don't
debt exclude
debt
that
exclude the
Somebody
18,000
said to me,
interest.
if somebody said
So
to
there you
me
go.
that there would not be any negative tax implications to the taxpayers of this community for that project, I don't have an issue with it.
I
Then-
think we've said
I
that.
think we just did
No,
it.
no, because I'm not,
Can we-
I don't wanna.
without
go-
having
I
to-
don't, I
do
don't
we have-
wanna
we don't have to
reha- I
vote on
wanna
Look,
this
beat
it's
a
today.
dead horse.
look, at the end of the day, it's gonna cost. It's gonna cost the taxpayers money. What we're saying is
Yes.
that there's not gonna
Well,
be
it is
an
gonna cost
additional.
taxpayers
Right.
money, but we're not gonna see an increase in the tax rate.
That's-
And if there's, what'd it say, $61,000?
61.
Came off this year.
If we could,
What came off
Pay-
this year?
no, well, this is our last FY17, which is gonna be next year. There's a, yeah, there's a landfill bond for 50,000 plus interest and a,
That is not debt excluded if I remember.
no,
right.
it's not.
That's right.
But we can use those funds to pay the
Money
18,000.
can be used,
And you've got a $77,000 fire truck falling off.
yes.
So what's that add up to?
And is it $10,500
Yeah, so
one? Is that
You see,
falling
Tom,
off?
if we look at this, we can possibly
138,000.
find ways to do this. That's what
I
I'm
agree. My only
advocating.
point was it's been 4 years that this has been.
And that was
talked
my
about,
point. We found the money.
That's right.
We found the money right here.
I happen to agree with you, but
Found the money.
what I'm saying is right in front of my house, it's extremely dangerous.
Where's
And
95?
95 is if you take a left out of Pembroke, it's where the Roy's
okay,
used to.
yeah,
Okay.
So Mike,
that curve, sorry, is just below grade and it's a real mess. Just that little stretch alone is. I worry about the kids every single day.
And that needs to be looked at.
It's really, and it's not a simple fix because what people do is they drop the kids off and they park there in the street. The kids actually, they park on the sidewalk and they go around. The kids walk in the street. It's ridiculous.
not to interrupt, let's get back to the numbers, because if we can find a way, right? So here's the question though, that 50,000 that's fallen off from the landfill, has that been assigned to some other project?
No.
Or that's going right back into the pot, basically?
Yeah,
So can we agree now, and we got FinCom here, I know you don't have your board here, can we agree that we'll take $18,000 from that 50 that's fallen off to fund this 1 year on the anticipation bonds, right? That's how we're gonna do it, and then the rest is just again, it's serious, but it's gonna be replacement of something falling off. There's the money.
yeah, you just
Without a
don't
negative impact to the voter.
You just don't add the 18 grand to, the debt exclusion line.
Right. So there you go.
So,
So again, we've spent money, again, by taking that 18,000, we're spending money, next time. We're kind of encumbering that money in our minds, right? Knowing that we can use that 18,000, which, I think in this case, in order to at least have a comfort level to allow the people to vote it, people may not vote for this. And so we go back to the drawing board. But as far as I'm concerned, after 4 years, we found the money.
Well, the purpose of this discussion was to
Yeah, come up with it.
possibly
Yeah.
come up with something.
Yeah, so I think we
which
got-
we hadn't done before.
Mike, you're the professional. Do you think that that's sound reasoning that I just kind
The
of?
money's there. We're gonna have $61,675.
So we can take $18,000.
18,000, and we're done.
Yeah.
okay.
And
And then
it's-
we have
and
the
you still
bond,
have
and you don't pay the
43,675
Right.
Right.
to the good.
We meet
And that
Wednesday.
bond will still be less on the tax rolls than it's currently here.
Right, because the principal that we borrowed originally was over had to be over $2-3 million.
Is there a penalty for prepayment on bonds? I can't
No.
remember. So I think Gary's point, and my point was, when we first did this, we expected that there'd be some free cash or some other funds available to pay for a good portion of this.
Right.
And I mean, I didn't expect in 2012 we'd be in the financial position that we're in today. We're laying people off. I mean, I get it. We just don't have the monies available. We're borrowing this year's money to pay next year's operating budget as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean, as a board going forward, that if there are years we have, I think the snow budget really put a huge crimp onto our free cash position, which I mean, you can't predict this stuff. But my expectation was at least 300,000 or 400,000 of that free cash would be applied toward this. 110 inches of snow or whatever, and later, and that's gone. So, I mean, in the end, the boards and the Finance and Advisory Committee, the board of Selectmen and the Finance and Advisory Committee, have the right in the next few years, I know next year looks like a tough year as well, but going out further and over the next 14 years, to find ways to contribute toward free cash and paying these bonds off early. That's all I can tell you. I mean, look, I don't think, back in 2012, our expectation was that we were going to go out and debt exclude the entire thing. My expectation was that there would be a portion of that. But it's encouraging to know that these bonds
Yeah, that's what
are
I'm saying, yeah.
going to be dropping off over the years. This 251,000 dropping off, which would more than make up the $193,000 debt service that's coming up in 2020 or so.
Well, I just wanted a discussion that has never taken place, like we just had tonight, to find a way, and as I left it with Jim Lacy, that I don't have an issue. If it doesn't affect the taxpayer negatively, I don't have an issue with it, and we can go forward. I just wanted a discussion that we haven't had.
Well, here's-
That's it. Now by having this, discussion, passionate discussion, we have found that there's money.
If I can speak, I mean,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
all of this stuff I get from Mike, he gives us to us. Thank you, Mike. As I said, we got the land one falling off for 50. We've got, a capital one falling off, I think that falls off this year, according to what this is, and I think that's one where we borrowed, remember, Sandy, you're still here, we had a line item in there that you put in several years ago for capital, and that got spent on bonding. I believe that bonding is falling off shortly, if I'm looking at the right one.
That was the short term.
And that's, I think, $70,000 falling off. So right there is $120,000 within budget. And now we've also got a fire truck, $77,000 that fell off. So you now have close to $200,000 in budget that is falling off. So this is where I fail to see, why do we need to put an override to the people when we can possibly do this within budget?
No, but we need,
77 isn't in the budget, Gary.
right, but we need the 1.8 million
It
to do
has
the
been at
project, Joe.
times, it's not there this year, agreed, but.
You understand what I'm saying, Gary?
It's either
We have to
free
borrow the
cash
1.8
or-
though.
But it's not there, it's something that we've had to worry about every year, and we've managed to find it, every year,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
So,
So, but if we-
that's still falling off.
But hear this, if it gets passed and we appropriate the 1.8 million, there's no reason why we can't make extra principal payments.
Right.
Correct.
And pay it down quicker, like Gary's saying, within budget. And that money just rolls back in, right?
If you got it within budget, why?
Right, you don't, but you need the
Well, it's
1.8 up front,
competing
you need the
interests as
cash.
well.
You don't have the cash. If we did that if we saved
earmark it.
200,000 for 15 years, we'd have $3 million. We need the money up front, then pay it back. But if we can pay it back within budget, rather than, we still have to go for the debt exclusion and have the cash up front.
You can't earmark it, Gary, in operating budget. You can't do that.
Right.
You can sit there in your plan and say, yeah, we're gonna plan on taking this.
I agree with you, but,
To me, it sounds like there's $18,000. Mike, you're the professional. I'll ask the question again, so that we can at least suffice that we will not be adding to the tax roll more than what we already have, if we can take $18,000 for the debt service for that 1 year. Can we
Yes,
do
as
that?
long as we don't appropriate that $61,000 on
Right.
something else.
Right.
for the Elm Street project, and we do have a posted meeting for the FinCom for Wednesday,
Yeah.
right?
I can't, I have a death in the family, so I can't be there Wednesday, but
But I think that we can move forward with that and have a discussion with the FinCom on it.
Mike, when does the vote for the ballot need to go to Jan?
April 4th, next Monday.
So
So
we
you
would
guys
have
need
to
to
vote
take-
that night.
Right.
We would have to vote on that warrant article that night.
Wednesday night, right?
Yeah.
This Wednesday coming? Yeah.
Right,
And
I
we should
think,
take a vote tonight.
I mean, I'm back to the business decision. We were out 18 grand, basically,
Yeah.
and Mike says that there's stuff falling off that we could use and use that $18,000 for it. So, I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we, allow question 1. Shall the town of Georgetown be allowed to exempt from the provision of the Proposition 2.5, so-called the amounts required to pay for bonds to be issued in order to fund the rehabilitation, reconstruction, improvements to Elm Street, including all costs incidental thereof, to be on the town warrant as presented? I make the motion. Was that the right motion, Mike?
for discussion purposes, I'll second it.
Okay.
And just to your point, Doug, where the board has, we have a joint meeting on Wednesday, the Finance and Advisory Board, I'm sure, and I'll be more than happy to champion that, to have further discussion on the detail of this, because what Mike presented tonight was presented and has been under discussion by the Finance and Advisory Board for a few months now.
Are we not allowed to put numbers in that question?
That's correct. The statute, we have to
Right,
follow
it's
the statute's wording.
Bond council's not gonna allow it.
Yes
I
or
want the
no
understanding
question.
to be that we're following this up to $1.8 million,
That's what
That was
was
the original
originally
article, yeah.
authorization.
the authorization.
okay?
In my opinion, and the professional's opinion, we found the $18,000, and then 19 will kick in. The money from the bonds that fall off will more than take care of this particular bond. If we want to make extra principal payments, like Gary says, from the operating, we can do that and pay it off earlier. To me, again, this isn't us approving the ballot question.
Oh, no.
It's just getting it on there. So
Right, well,
with
you know,
that,
sometimes ballot questions are
That's
ambiguous and people don't really know what they're voting for.
so based on the information I have in front of me, I have no problem making that motion and voting on it tonight.
Well, I think that as long as we have that money and we agree that we will go that way, then I think that satisfies my concern.
If I
My
may.
concern is that I just don't want it to have a negative impact on the taxpayers that are already beaten with a lead bat.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead,
I
Gary.
think that Sandy just said something earlier to the fact that we can't agree. You're agreeing this year to spend next year's money, and you can't do that.
Operating.
We're not agreeing, we're just saying the money is there to do what we want to do. We're not appropriating, we're not guaranteeing. We know that if we're all still here in the room, right?
Whoever the boards are.
We're all still living.
Next year's.
Yeah,
Agreed. Could
we're all still
completely
here.
change their mind.
Right, and not do the project, so,
Well,
who knows?
two of them fell off in 15.
15.
Yeah, there was,
Was it-
for
was there one-
45,000.
Was there one in there for 10,500?
That didn't fall off. No, it was 35. No. It's the 10,000 one that's falling off. The last year is this payment. This year is, 2017 is the last payment.
Oh, it falls off in 17.
Yeah, that's our last payment.
Well,
The 18,000 doesn't have to be paid until
2018, the
2018.
first true principal payment would be 2019.
I just don't understand this tricky math you're trying to do. To me, you're doing tricky math. You know, you're asking the people to borrow this money, and you're talking about like it's only gonna cost $18,000.
No, the difference
What I-
between, and I'll explain it. The matching money that's falling off will pay for the Elm Street bond in 19, right? The
But
money
you're
that's,
saying the debt exclusion that's falling off will pay for it.
yes,
Well,
right, we're
the debt
replacing.
exclusion, you gotta remember, falls off. So you're just replacing a debt
Right,
exclusion
exactly, right.
with a debt exclusion.
If we don't do it completely, if we said Elm Street's
But
fine.
we've also just talked about, there are some things falling off that we could possibly do this next year within budget, and we wouldn't have to worry about adding another debt
No,
exclusion
Gary,
to
you
the
don't understand, the point you're missing is you need the 1.8 in cash. You need the money up front in order to pay it. You could do that and appropriate it, and it would take you 10 years to save the money.
Permission if we can find the money.
61, 4.
But you can't make installment payments if you don't get the money up front.
But we gotta pay the contractor, the entire.
Right, you gotta pay the money, all the money up front, is what I'm trying to say. You have to have the money in your hand. You can't use, if we have, say we have $200,000 in the budget.
One more year and it's there.
I understand that, but you still have to do the debt exclusion.
No,
Because you
don't.
need, yeah, what are you gonna give the contractor $200,000 payments over the life
We
of
have
the?
the authority to bond within budget if we know with them, and we can do it. We have that authority.
That's when
Okay.
it's available.
You could do that either way. I mean, you could do it now if you
That's what
wanted
I'm
to.
saying.
That falls off.
And cut other stuff.
Yeah, with the 50.
But that's not the prudent way to do it. I would use those
I
extra
would think
principal
that is
payments.
the prudent way, not to put it back up to the taxpayers. We talked about, it was on there as doing it within budget. We're showing that we've got things falling off, that we can do this within budget next year. And I think that that's the way we should proceed. Right now, it's going through the permitting process, and who knows how long that even is going to take. So, that may well take, from what I understand, the way things work, that may well take close to a year right there, just to do the permitting.
Well, the longer you leave it out there, the more it's gonna cost, and if it's a year beyond, it's
Now,
even worse.
to me, Phil, that's scare tactics.
It falls off.
It's a fact.
The tax rate, but it doesn't fall, I mean, our levy drops down by that amount too. So there's no funds to pay for it.
If you're a debt exclusion,
No, if
without
there's
it.
debt exclusion, we have the extra levy to pay for it.
if we
If-
debt exclude it.
Yes.
But we talked about the $50,000 that's falling off, you said that was not a debt exclusion.
Right.
So that will bring that won't affect our levy. That's not a debt exclusion.
That's right.
Okay, and then the $70,000 that we're paying for the capital bond is not a debt exclusion. So when that
That's correct,
falls off,
yep.
so there's $120,000 right there that goes back into the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the 18,000, right?
Yeah, but
But we
Doug,
we-
once that question is out there as an override, that's there. You have no control over the board next year. What does that? You have no control over finance if they say, yeah, we're gonna take that, $70,000 that's fallen off and spend it for this bond. We have no control. We can't spend that here.
And nor should you have.
The bond has to be approved by us.
In being on Finance and Advisory Board for over 15 years, and in knowing the selectmen way before, boards before you gentlemen were on it, there has never been a thought process in my time here that with the intention of doing something that has not happened. Okay, the idea of, yes, if the money falls down on the operating, and if it's the spirit of the selectmen and the FinCom going forward to do everything they can to start paying down that 1.8 million with operating, then I think the board would do everything the boards would do everything they can to try to do that. Legally, they cannot earmark that.
Right.
We legally couldn't take a vote to say that's what's gonna happen because of type of debt exclusion. You know what, I think if we could, the Finance and Advisory Board probably already would have done that, but we
So,
can't.
so I have an operational question for Mike then. Just like refinancing your own home or your own car or any large capital item, to Gary's point. So we go ahead with this, and 2 years down the road, we decide, you know what, we can do this within budget. Can we take a bond on our own to pay off a debt exclusion? And then pay for the bond in our operating budget?
Well, you can refinance, yeah.
But take and pay off the debt exclusion and put it in the bond and let the bond be paid by the operating. It's a little more maneuvering, but
Yeah, I mean, you can refinance it, and it doesn't have to be a debt excluded refinancing. We refinanced a lot
Right.
uh,
Of bonds, but,
before I got here.
Right.
But it was, we refinanced it with debt exclusion.
because then the mechanism to pay it would change. So if it's 2 years down the road and we decide a lot of stuff is falling off and we can go grab a bond for 1.8 and pay for it from the stuff that's fallen off, then we can pay off the debt exclusion and walk from it. There's nothing that says we have to keep this for 10 years if we can create a bond to pay off a debt exclusion. Then the mechanism to pay it is different.
Right.
So, I mean, if that's allowed.
You can refinance.
Why would you need to do that if that,
Because
if
the-
the debt exclusion's fallen off the rolls, it's just going right into the operating fund?
Right.
Or are you saying you just, that would earmark it?
Yeah, right.
I
This is
getcha.
specific
Yeah.
tax dollars to this specific debt. If we took a bond, then we would pay, like Gary says, if we find that we have $200,000 from stuff that's fallen off, then we could take a bond and pay this off,
Yeah.
depending
Yes.
upon where interest rates are. It may be cheaper to keep it the way it is. If interest rates are still flat, then we
But
take a
again-
bond and we pay this off.
I have asked repeatedly to let's look at this, and I get told, yep, we're gonna look at this, Gary, and it doesn't happen, so.
Well, we just
I
did.
mean, you know.
I think we
No,
just
no,
did it
you're
over
not.
the
You're-
last
you're
hour or
still
two.
You're still looking at putting on a debt exclusion,
A
that's,
few meetings ago.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I don't disagree with that.
Coverage,
We're not putting it on. We're letting the voters decide whether
see,
to put it
I
on.
see this as a long-term capital, long-term
agree
capital
with you.
project.
I don't
We should be
disagree.
planning for long-term capital projects, and we should be trying to fund them going forward, especially if we know some of these things are falling off. And we need to start working on that plan. We could have right along been taking some of our new growth, I've been saying over and over, let's find a way to fund capital. We always fund capital out of free cash. That, we should not be doing that. We should be trying to develop a capital improvement program.
I agree.
And
Well, we can try. I mean, our operating budget is several $100,000 in the hole. It's just, where do you come up with the money? We need to, I mean, that goes back to the whole revenue
some things,
sources.
you've got some things that are falling off. I mean,
Just like in your own life, there's certain times where you have to
We need to
borrow
limit
money for a
our
large
law.
purchase.
Very
And that's the way
rarely.
I see it. Well, I mean, if you're lucky enough not to have a mortgage, Gary, God bless you. But, I mean, I'm sure you didn't have cash to pay for your house. We're not in a position, and it's not good business, just to wait and try to collect the money and then do it. Then it's three times the
Well, no, it
cost.
is. There's a guy out there, he's on the radio every night. I've taken his programs, Dave Ramsey, how to move forward without borrowing everything. We tend to wanna borrow everything, and let's do it. No, let's develop a capital improvement program within our budget.
I don't
Try to
disagree
move
with that
forward.
statement. I don't disagree with that statement, but again, here's a large purchase, and this is the reason why we have the ability to borrow.
I don't wanna, but,
Again, I've
I
looked, go
I
back
got
and
the
forth.
banker here telling me to borrow. I mean, we come from a different frame of mind, I think.
agree.
So,
I think
and,
that-
and I am
At
happy to have that
3.5%
diversity.
interest, it's, sometimes
that
it's a
we-
good idea to borrow.
Right.
I think that we have found money that will be available. I think that as logical, common sense people, that we can do a handshake and say, we'll use that to cover that 18,000, I mean, between us. But we have to, because Sandy, you're leaving the finance committee?
I'm still on,
Right, but I mean,
and that's my.
have you
things to be-
decided whether or not to
Right,
extend?
exactly, but I mean, the goal is one of the things we've been doing for years to try to set us up to be fiscally responsible, and we really haven't.
Right.
The recent debts have been the library, the schools. I mean, we
Mhm,
don't,
mhm.
we haven't done a lot.
Oh, no, you and Jim have done a great job, and
I
the
think
whole
we've done a
finance
great
committee,
job.
but-
And it's been very
But Jim's leaving the finance
Okay,
committee?
Jim and Robin are off,
And-
and
Potentially a third member,
potentially,
if
yeah,
he gets elected.
potentially, yes. So I mean, it's, and it's.
But we have
like I
control,
said,
we
but
still have
exclusive
control,
of that,
right?
I mean, we have been looking for the money. It isn't like we haven't been looking. We have been working with Peter.
approved the
We have
budget,
been
by the
talking.
way.
Well,
and-
we
and-
approve everything, so.
We approve the budget, they just give recommendations.
I
Right,
understand.
right.
No, I
It is
understand.
our recommended budget, but like I said, the money, the financing mechanism is what Mike presented to you tonight that the finance committee has been discussing. So is, because it has been not to have any financial impact onto the taxpayers. However, the question as I originally came to tonight is, in my opinion as a taxpayer, it should be put on the ballot to let the
Yeah,
people
I
vote
understand,
on
but
it.
we needed to have this conversation.
Of course.
Right.
In order to get to
Right.
this point.
Yep.
All right?
And I would clarify,
I just
it's
wanna-
not an
I just
additional
wanna make
burden.
sure that the finance committee for fiscal year 17 understands what we've
Oh,
talked about this evening, and
oh yeah, this is.
should we agree that it would be on their, side note on their,
Right, I apologize, I mean, I'll apologize, I don't know how you didn't get this, but this is something we have been discussing for the past few months, as the funding mechanism. So, where the miscommunication, okay, that's something obviously the boards have gotta work out. That aside, this is not news. This is not news, this is, yeah, look at the debt falling off, replacing
Yeah,
it,
well,
and.
I try to follow as many meetings as I can, even if I have to watch them on YouTube. Some of the
God,
meetings, finance committee
At least
meetings,
have a
are
glass
not
of wine while you're doing it,
televised.
please.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
But so what, but anyhow, so we have all come to an understanding that we have found this $18,000 so that any bond for Elm Street would not have a negative tax impact on the taxpayers.
Correct.
And
Additional tax burden.
Additional tax burden, right.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, well then, I think we've beaten this pretty hard. I'm gonna call the vote. And, all those in favor of the motion to, put question 1 on the ballot, for the town elections on May 9th, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
1 nay. All right, well, the motion carries.
And Doug, if you guys are joining us on Wednesday, we can beat this to death too, if you'd like.
Well, no, I just, to make sure that the finance committee is up to speed, and we should be.
I'm not speaking for the finance committee, but this is
Oh,
open
no,
meeting,
you're a
yeah.
personal,
Right.
yeah, that's
No,
right.
but this is open meeting, that this has been discussed in open meeting.
Oh, no, absolutely. But I think it's important that tonight's discussion is discussed with the finance committee.
Yep.
On Wednesday
yeah.
night. Hey, Bob, Chris?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Thanks for your
Thank
feedback.
you.
Okay.
We appreciate it, thank you very much for hearing us. I really appreciate
Well,
it.
you
And
know,
we'll see-
it spurred a conversation that was overdue.
And I think, like I said, if I was aware of what you and I spoke about earlier, I would have spurred the conversation ahead of time. So, thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks,
Sandy.
Sandy. All right, so we need to go through the rest of the town warrants here. So, Mike, we haven't voted on any of these yet, right?
No, we haven't.
Okay. All right, well, let's go through these then.
These have to be voted on tonight?
Yes, because your next meeting is until the 11th, and
The book gets,
the warrant has to be posted on
Point
the
of order.
14th. So we've got to get it out to.
Do we have to open a warrant to add, like the, one for,
Oh, for the CPC
for
stuff.
the, no, that was on there as a placeholder, it's the Whittier. 'Cause that was not on there when we closed the warrant.
Stabilization fund that they came-
Oh, you mean on the special warrant,
Is that on the
number 3?
Well, number 3 is new, yes, but, no, the one from Whittier, the Whittier assessment to, the stabilization fund, it's
No, that's-
ATM 16.
That's part of Article,
No, we added it on,
That went on after we closed the warrant.
yeah, it was articles.
Oh, there it is. Well, there's no,
So that's my question, do we
oh,
need,
it's,
is there any?
ATM 1623.
yeah, there's one pager.
what
On
page?
page,
Page 4. Well, 4 down. Whittier.
That came in,
The,
yeah, that came in.
Stabilization.
allow them to do the stabilization
Right,
fund,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, that
you're
came
right.
in.
Yep.
And then, were there any, all the others, I believe, are on there? Although,
I took one off today, well, actually, I haven't taken it off, but,
It was the planning board.
planning board has is not gonna do, there wasn't wording on it, but there was a
Okay, that's, yeah,
placeholder.
that's, ATM 16-21.
Dash 21, yeah.
Yeah,
I just crossed it off.
I wondered what that was, yeah.
20 and 20, oh, there it is.
So I guess it's to the question, Mr. Chair, is do we need to open and close the warrant to add that before we start voting, or do you wanna do it as we get there, or just to proceed? And then also, I think, Article 3 Senior Center, that wasn't on there,
Wasn't on the special.
that's on the special town warrant.
That's correct.
Okay.
Why don't we just open it?
Yeah, if I get a motion to open the town warrant for May
Special.
2nd.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Can I get a motion to open the special town meeting town warrant
So
for
moved.
May 2nd?
The second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go through these when we get to them, okay? All right.
Which one's first?
We want to do first.
Well, let's do the,
Do we wanna just add them and
Take
then
a short
close
one.
it and vote, or, well, no, maybe let's, cause we may wanna take some
May.
more, yeah.
let's talk about the special town meeting. If I can, well, we need to, one is a vote on Article 3 in the senior center to be added to the special town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. All right, so,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the special town meeting warrant for May 2nd, 2016.
Second?
okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, okay.
Done.
All right, so I need a motion then to approve Articles 1, 2, and 3. You can either take them separately, or if anyone has any questions. Are you guys okay if we do it,
Available funds.
let's do them individually here.
To hear and act on reports. Mr. Chairman, do you want to entertain a motion?
Yeah, if I can get a motion for
Okay,
Article.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on Article 1 on the town warrant, ATM 16-01, town officers and committee records, to hear and act on the reports of the town officers and committees.
Correction, STM rather than ATM.
So you're on the town warrant, we're on the special town.
Oh, you're on the special, I thought we closed it. Oh, okay.
We
I'm
did,
so-
but we
I'm
still gotta
sorry.
vote on the
Oh,
articles
all
that
right.
are on there.
I'm on the
Yep,
wrong
nope,
one. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I rescind that motion.
it was,
I make a motion to, Article 1 in a special town meeting, adjustments to the fiscal year 2016 operating budget.
Second.
all right, any discussion?
Can I ask, yeah, do we just want to, for the purpose of the time, perhaps decide which ones we have on there moving forward, and the warrant can get voting, and then we could vote our recommendations at a later meeting?
Well, don't we have to
Well,
vote
I
these
thought-
to be put on the actual, with the,
With our votes in there, right?
So what, I guess that's the question, what are we voting? Are we voting to support them, or are we voting
Right.
that we're gonna move these forward?
kind of.
This
kind of
is a
both.
draft
This is-
document. You wanna make it a final
So
document.
that's what I would look at it as, we're making this a final document, and then perhaps we, later, it might make it go quicker tonight, and later, we decide, sometimes we vote on how we feel about them.
We don't even have, not all of these have dollar amounts
Yeah, we
attached
don't
to
even
them.
Agreed,
You
so
can't
that's why,
vote on them right
yeah,
now.
so that's why I'm saying, if we look at this as we're just finalizing this, not. I just-
Finalizing the warrant.
Yeah, it may make our conversation.
Do we have to
go
vote
quicker.
that, though? Doesn't it become automatic at one point? If it's closed,
I would think.
it's
that-
automatic,
I-
right?
I would think no, because it's just a draft. I would think that we need to vote what stays and what.
You know, you can
anything goes.
say,
You can do the whole document.
yeah, put these on as presented in the draft document.
Wanna do that, Dave?
You guys are
Do we have a
tired.
question out
Me
there?
too,
We got a
yeah.
question
I'm
out there on
running out of
number
gas.
one, so why don't we vote number
On the
one?
11th, you'd have to probably vote how you want to
Right, whether we support them or not.
support them or not.
Yeah, once we get some more figures.
Right, but by
Hopefully,
closing,
maybe
the-
one more after that, but in time for us to get it in the FinCom book, if you wanted to put it
Have our
in.
votes.
We
How
wanna
soon-
do it on the 11th. We wanna get this to legal.
How soon before town meeting does we have to have this finalized?
It has to be posted on the 14th.
It has to be
14th
Yeah,
of April.
5 days, 4 days after your next meeting, 3 days after your next meeting. We meet on Monday, and it has to be posted on Thursday of that week.
Yeah, so if we could agree tonight, these are what we're going on, you can now move these to the attorney, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then later, whether we could argue over what the amount's gonna be for the
Right,
senior
right.
center.
Well, they're all drafts until we
Right,
vote
okay.
them anyway, right? No, 'cause that's just a matter
No,
of
we'll be
supporting
taking
it.
the draft off tonight, I think, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, yeah.
All right, so I make a motion that we direct the town administrator to remove the word draft on the town warrant, special town meeting for May 2nd, 2016.
I guess I'll second that.
I think I did it right.
But,
Okay, just for clarification here, we have a motion on the
There was a
floor
motion
for the
already.
Article 1 already?
yeah,
Right.
So let's vote on Article 1, and then we can do the, you can hit your,
Move the
thing.
question, Mr. Chairman, nay.
Okay, all those in favor say aye, all those opposed say nay.
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 Article 1, we're turning it down because we're gonna vote it as a blanket.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd rather you do it that way rather
Yep.
than
Right,
just put.
yeah.
the
Okay,
draft
now
draft.
now we
As
have a motion
presented.
on the floor for Dave for
remove
the
draft.
entire
Right, so-
warrant here. So
right.
all those in favor say aye.
So yes,
We're taking the draft off.
Taking draft off.
So
and
it's as presented and we're taking
removing the
draft
word
off.
draft, yep.
Okay.
Aye.
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 Aye, okay.
We've been making these roll call votes lately, what?
So, we have to add the ATM 16-23. I need a motion to add Article, ATM 16-23, Whittier Regional Vocational Technical District Stabilization Fund.
So moved.
Second. That was page 4.
Okay.
Yep, page 4 of 19.
Any discussion?
Yeah, yes, just I did not, I think, finance voted against this, I can't remember, they had a lot of discussion on this one. Do you know, Mike?
I wasn't at the meeting, Gary.
Yeah. I didn't write them down. but
And I
remember-
didn't see the minutes.
I remember a
Jim-
lot
Jim-
of discussion.
Jim was gonna send us the minutes.
Because I think what, by opening up, let them do it, it means we're gonna have to fund it someday?
Well, no, yeah, they were rather clear, I think that yes, it will be, but there was some concern. I think of it just where it can be
I didn't make a
spent
note
by
of
as a board and not have to go back to towns and it becoming a slush fund, which I think we're, just to let you know, I can't remember exactly what the vote was, I didn't write them down.
So if we can always,
Well, that'll be on
Well,
there,
we're
what
just,
they
we're
recommend.
voting, all we're doing is voting to add this.
Right,
Yeah.
just to add it,
And
not
then
be
we can-
approve it or not.
Yeah.
we can take it out and we can pass over in the worst
okay.
case, yeah. Okay, all those in favor of Article ATM 16-23 to be on the
Aye.
version?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Was there any, I missed, there was one more I thought,
Is there not another one?
or is
The
that
other
it?
one we're taking off.
Oh,
But
this,
I don't know if you have to
this
vote to
one,
take it off.
ATM 1621 on page 10? Was that the one you were talking about, that we needed to add,
We're taking off.
taking off?
Well, I think as-
Groundwater Protection District
I think
zoning
as
bylaw?
well,
Yeah, the planning board's not moving forward with that article. It's
Mr.
just
Chairman, I
the
make a
storm.
motion that we direct the town administrator to remove the word draft and also remove proposed draft article 16, ATM 16-22,
21.
so 21, excuse me, 21, and, yeah,
could you
remove
hold
the word
off on
draft as
that?
presented.
Perhaps
Okay.
some Discussion?
Well, no, nobody seconded, so we're good.
I mean, if you wanna propose it as we take some things off and then just take the word draft off and do it as presented, I mean, I really question, and I think it would clean it up if we take off Article 3 stabilization, Article 4 capital, and Article, well, it's ATM 16-15 on page 4, other post-employment benefit funds, 'cause I don't think there's any funding for that, and
The OPEB.
and typically, we try to do them at fall town meeting when we have an idea of what the free cash is going forward, so, I guess I would ask Mike, do you see any of them being funded? this spring.
No.
So which
Well,
ones were we
I think
removing?
It would be Article 3, ATM 16-03, right on page 1. On page 2, Article 4, Capital Fund, ATM 16-4. And then on page 4, it just says Article, it's ATM 16-15, other post-employment benefits trust.
So nobody seconded my motion, so I can
Yeah.
do it again.
I think that would make it cleaner going to town meeting, because typically what we do is there's no motion. But I think it's easier when you're sitting out there and you know, you're trying to follow along and something doesn't get,
It's just a waste of time.
yeah.
Okay.
But the only thing is, Mike, from a strategic perspective, is there any reason why we should leave these on there? Because if something pops up between now and then, no. Because it's money going in rather than coming out, right?
Yeah, there's no chance.
You got a lottery ticket?
Yeah, I know, right? I ain't giving it to the town if I do. I got news
Ah,
for you
come on.
again. All right, so.
And then that one you mentioned earlier.
All right, so,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we direct the town administrator to remove the word draft, remove proposed article ATM 1603, 1604, and 1621, was it?
15.
15.
21.
Oh, article, yeah, I'm sorry, ATM 16-15 and 16-21.
Yep.
And print the article as presented, otherwise as presented.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
Did you get a second?
Yeah, Gary.
Gary,
I'm sorry.
if I could, just while we're on this, is there any chance of getting planning? Did Jim talk to you about that? They're trying to get them to come Wednesday, maybe even to explain the storm water erosion control bylaw? I mean, I know they probably had hearings.
He didn't talk to me about it. I
I
don't
know
know
they
if he.
probably had hearings, but this thing is 10 pages long, and it looks like it could get rather costly. And, I mean, it talks about budgeting and this, and I think before we make our decision in finance, that somebody needs to give a better explanation. I know Howard probably could have, because he was on that committee, I imagine.
But remember, there was a schedule of things that we needed to do that we got fined.
I
In
know
lieu of
that,
fines,
I
remember?
know that, but I
It
wonder
goes a
if some
ways
of this
back.
maybe goes even further.
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
okay.
so maybe if we could try to set up something where we could at least get, if it's not here, it's at finance.
Mike, for our meeting on Wednesday night, can you give a budget update and then talk about health insurance, or is that just not on the agenda? We can't talk about those. Other
But
unanticipated.
you have town administrators report on
No,
Wednesday
well,
night, no?
we could move tonight, they're on tonight's budget, the meeting, how we could adjourn and move it to that, or something of that sort.
I'm
perhaps.
trying to. I just.
I'm wondering if I can just do it as part of the FinCom meeting.
This Wednesday, right?
Yeah, both of those.
Do we need to vote on that? It is, I mean, we need to hear it.
Yeah, you don't need a I'm not asking a vote.
Whether you can actually.
I'm informing you that, you know, I guess I won't need a vote. I just need your nod to go ahead and present it to the employees, employee union. It's kind of a no-brainer almost.
Well, let's do it in abbreviated mode, let's go. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, but let's do it, rather than sit here and wait.
No.
They'll probably be redoing it at finance, I think that, and if we're having.
Is it duplication, Mike, you think? But you need a vote, right?
Well,
It's a nod,
I
he says.
wanted the board to be aware of this and, you know, support it when I go to the employees. So, yeah, I guess I wanted a vote.
A recommendation vote?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I can run through it in 5 minutes.
All right, well, I don't
We're
want
on
to.
the clock.
You're on the clock now.
No.
Starting now.
10:09.
Okay, so, on these spreadsheets I gave you, it said Maya on it. Right now, with health insurance, if we do nothing, the premiums are going up 8.5%. And so it's from 2.3 million to 2.5 million. And it's already been, that 8.5% has been included in the budget numbers as far as the finance committee is concerned. And we were able to refund some of the cuts that, not actually cuts, but you know, we were originally carrying the budget at health insurance at 10%, and we lowered it to the increase to 8.5%, and it actually put us in the black. Once we, including the $300,000, we were then looking at excess levy of $137,000 to the good. But that's with 300,000 of the free cash. Now, when I was talking to our rep, when he told me about the 8.5% increase, he says, you know, there is another option, but it is for the employee, it would appear to be, you know, it could be in a substantial change. Because we would now be moving to deductibles, which we don't have right now. We have
deductibles now?
No, we have co-pays for hospital and emergency room of $100 each. There is 0 co-pays. The co-pays would be $250 per person with a cap of $750.
Deductibles or copays? You were confusing
Deductibles.
those, Yeah.
Yeah, there'd be now deductibles. The co-pays remain the same, of $100 for those 2 items, the emergency room and surgery. That doesn't change, but the new program adds the deductibles. If we did that and kept just the, well, we'd still have the HBO, the HMO and the PPO, but there's also a limited option network. The network is much smaller, and it would include, it will include all the North Shore facilities, Anna Jakes, Beverly, Leahy, and Lawrence. But you know, people would have to pay higher co-pays if they went to Boston General or anybody outside of that limited network. And that's where the savings are. I mean, that's how you now they'd still be able to take the wide-ranging network, but it would allow us to then, if they're already using those facilities and those doctors, there's a further substantial savings. We'd go down to, and we have to guess of how people would utilize it. And I'm, on that second page, I'm estimating with a 50% migration to the new custom plan, the HMO custom. So instead of an 8.5% increase, we'd be looking at a 3% increase.
Do we know what the usages are on those ones that would be increasing, Mike? I mean, I know it's not the same every year because things happen, but.
I mean, they have that information,
Right.
but that's why they picked those they picked those facilities because they're more cost conscious.
Right.
They provide excellent care. They don't, they don't grade them on who has better care. They grade them on who has better cost controls.
Right.
And best case scenario, if there was 100% migration to the new plan, the cost would actually go down from last year, from 2.3 million to 2.2 million, and be a negative. Actually, the cost would go down 2.4%.
Okay, so this is with 100% migration?
Yeah.
So when you say the deductible, so if it's $100 to go to the emergency room,
That's a copay, or
it's a copay. Well, how does the deductible fit in that? Are they responsible for the first $750, and then anytime they use it after that, that's $100?
That's the way I understand it.
So the first time you go to an emergency room, it could cost you $750
No.
versus the $100.
No.
So what's the deductible then? I don't understand.
I don't understand your question.
Well, you said there's a deductible and there's a copay, right? So it's January 1st, well, July 1st is probably the date they switch. So it's the first
You
time.
pay the first $100,
Yeah,
and then everything after that goes to the deductible
yeah.
up until you hit $250 per person. If you have 3 people in your family,
Then after that, you don't have to pay the copay anymore, is that what you're saying?
you don't pay the
the
deductible.
deductible. You always pay the
You
copay.
always pay the copay.
But you have to pay the first
Right, so the
$250
first
bucks.
time you
After
go into the
that, there
emergency
is no,
room-
you don't
Right.
pay anymore
The
except for the
first time you go to the
copay.
emergency room, it's potentially $350.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So if I,
So what do you need from us tonight? Mike, you need a vote for,
Well, I know, you were very clear, you didn't, this is getting closer to the GIC plans with the higher deductibles. But that's the way the market is moving. I think next year, they're gonna be coming out with the real, as an option, not as your only choice, but, like the $1,000, $2,000 deductibles. That's where we're heading.
Excuse me.
This really starts us on that road. Now, the good part about it, if they migrate to the new limited plan, the savings out of just the 40% of their cost, they will cover
the deductibles and copays.
Yeah, that's what I
a
was-
single person would have an annual savings of $450. So it would cover the $250 plus.
So it's optional, right? This is not mandatory. People can stay where
Right.
they are if they want
Yes.
and pay the
They
increase.
stay where they
as
are,
is.
it goes up 8.5%.
Right. So we're
Period.
just offering this as an alternative.
But they will, we have to move to the deductible ones. We can do nothing and we're still gonna have, we won't have deductibles. We will have copays,
And we're still gonna go up 8%.
8.5%.
so if what I'm hearing is what you're saying, it's mostly in, can you present this to them and will they buy it? As it's really not costing them that much because what they're saving is covering the possible increase.
My
If they don't go to
calculations,
the
yeah,
doctors,
because a
they-
family plan on the new, limited on the custom plan, they would save $1,100.
So,
It covers, once again, the $750 cap.
I can continue, are we trying to do this as we did it before with them, or are we just trying to tell you, give you the okay to present it? And if they buy it, it's moving forward. If they don't buy it, we don't have time to work on it anyway.
That's correct.
Yeah, so,
This has to be a voluntary 30B
Yeah.
acceptance.
so
We, if we go through plan design change and follow the rules of the state, it's, a 3-4 month process, and we don't have time to do it.
yeah. And this town with this first one saves $128,000, then if that's with what you're thinking of the 50% migration, if it gets any better and they migrate any better, it could get to a negative number.
Yes.
Well, I don't see any, if it's totally voluntary at this point on their part, I certainly see no problem moving forward with this, and so how would you like it?
But my question is though, can one person stay in their existing plan they have now?
No, we either have to stay where we are now and go up 8.5%, or go to the enhanced option renewal, which now has the 250 and 750 deductibles.
Okay, and, so they have a choice though to go HMO Blue Enhanced or HMO Custom.
Yes,
And then Custom would save them even more money, but the risk is higher.
yes.
The Enhanced is the best. Yeah, okay, I get it.
And does Maya send you out someone to help you present this, or do they?
Yeah, they will.
So this is voluntary. All of them have to go into the enhanced options renewal, if anyone, if we want,
Right.
right? Everyone. There's gotta be 100% participation?
Yeah,
No, we just say it is, and that everybody
The-
goes there.
the teachers' union has veto authority.
Right.
So if they agree to it, then, we can move everybody to it.
If not, it stays the way it is.
Yes, and goes up 8.5%.
Okay.
And they have somewhat discussed this as they came in front of us at that finance committee meeting. I mean, they sort of had an idea something of this sort is coming. I took it.
Well, I took Joe aside and said, I got something I want to discuss with you to, save, and if it's gonna save teachers' jobs,
Yeah.
that was the premise. I said I might have a plan to save some jobs.
And they're not really risking, because they're getting that back in premium, that the deductible, the max deductible they can pay is $750 for
Yes.
an individual.
Yeah.
They're getting more than that back in terms of the premium.
Yes. With the custom option.
No pressure, Mike, go sell it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, I don't think you need a vote, just a matter of.
Yep.
No, I just wanted you
we'll all
to be
give
aware
you,
of.
look at us, we'll all give you the nod.
You were over your 5 minutes there,
Wink,
Mike.
wink.
Way over your 5 minutes. there.
Sorry.
All right, Mike, this Northeast Mosquito Control and Wetlands District, we've been asked to give a support of non-support for the proposed FY17
Yeah, we got that.
Support it,
proposed
right?
budget.
Right.
What's the recommendation
Um,
and why?
well, without it,
Ugh.
we wouldn't have a mosquito control program.
Especially with these new mosquitoes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the Northeast Massachusetts Mosquito Control and Wetlands Management District FY17 proposed budget as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
I say support for the FY17 budget, right? We're not actually approving their budget because the budget's not there, but at least there's a number there, so.
It's level funded, as it says. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, motion carries. How about just an update on the senior community center, Mike? Let's finish everything while we're over at bedtime.
We haven't signed a contract with the general contractor yet, but we're moving forward in getting that done. And the Whittier people continue to make great progress.
Can we go down and do a site visit at any time?
Yeah, check in with Mike Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If I get a chance. When do they start? In the morning?
They're there, they usually arrive around 9, a little after 9. They have to go to class, you know, show up
Okay.
at school first, and then they're usually done around 1 or 2.
Okay.
That's why they're slow, because they don't have that many hours.
Right, that's okay.
But,
That's fine.
yeah, we came to an agreement that they're gonna be able to get all the framing done. It's all metal, the steel framing, and then that way, the general contractor and with the electrician and the air vents will be able to do their thing, and then they can come back and close it up in the fall with
We're all signing that?
sheet rock.
No, just Mike. I had to give him authorization to sign. Mike needs to sign that.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. You guys good on just a quick update on the community center?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad it's moving forward.
And then the last is the strategic planning update.
I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't update you on that.
Oh. Oh, I'll give you an update. I'll give you an update next meeting.
There you
Okay.
go.
Anything else, guys? Just so you know, so Doug, Gary, and I this morning were visiting with Senator Tar, along with the reason for the meeting was a retirement ceremony given to Chief Al Beardsley. Al Beardsley. Sorry, Al, it's getting late. Which was nice. Senator Tar, we were in the chamber. It was a really nice ceremony. So Doug and Gary, thanks for joining as well this morning. It was a nice retirement. I know Fred, Chief Fred Mitchell came as well. You were doing taxes this morning.
No, I was doing work that I couldn't get out of.
Excellent.
Traffic committee.
Oh, traffic committee. I don't even know what's
If you would, Mr. Chair, I'm
traffic committee
I'm
appointments.
volunteering for that, and I think, the way it was set up before,
Yes.
Janet had given us the things on when we, back in June of 2013, we dropped it to a, 3-person committee. So tonight, I'd like to see you put it, I'm asking that you appoint me, a appointee from the chief of police and Peter Durkee for tonight, and then perhaps we could at a later date discuss it, even going back to a 5-person board, if possible.
Okay, so
I've discussed this with Chief Cudmore. Got another letter here today from, that Janet put in my mail from, someone else talking about changing some parking down on North Street.
Right.
There's been some issues, and the chief feels that without a traffic study committee to propose the changes, there's nothing he can do,
Right.
so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we appoint Gary Fowler, Chief Don Cudmore, and Highway Surveyor Peter Durkee to the Traffic Committee with a term to expire June 30th, 2016.
I think the chief or appoint someone.
Oh, he wanted to appoint.
Or
an
designee.
appointee.
Or designee.
Okay.
Chief Cudmore or designee with a term to expire June 30th, 2016.
You mean
16,
26?
you mean?
No, June
End of
30th,
June?
16, yeah. Until
Just
they
to finalize this
get
year's
it
term.
going, yeah.
I was hoping to suck him in for 10 years. Okay.
Second.
Gary, thank you for stepping up to do that. If you weren't under duress and you said yes, so I appreciate it. All those in favor, say aye.
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 I'll abstain.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you. My wife was real happy to hear
Okay.
me possibly be on another board.
And then we have a request from the American Diabetes Association for the Tour de Cure on May 22nd, 2016 to ride through town.
Mr.
So
Chairman, I'd
moved.
like to make a motion, yes.
Oh, sorry. So moved, Gary. I mean, Doug. I'm not even losing
Okay,
my
then I'll
mind.
second.
Sorry.
Okay, any discussion? It looks like all the paperwork's in, and,
As a diabetic, I fully support it.
okay. We've done this before.
Yeah, we've done this before.
Right? Yeah. Okay, I'll move it. All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, motion carries. We're good? Anything else? Next meeting is Wednesday, March 30th, this Wednesday, with the Finance and Advisory Committee.
I will not be there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'm gonna miss your day.
I know.
We did. We
Well,
did.
it's not
Yes,
passed.
we closed both of them.
I'll be there.
Oh, we did close the warrants, right?
No, we
I
did
don't know,
not.
but we did.
You closed the special.
The special.
comment.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a quick
Yeah,
question.
we
What
all
about
want
citizens
that one.
petition? When's the date that they
There are none.
didn't do it?
Already.